Before we begin the show, we just wanted to take a quick second and remind you all that there's only a few days left for you to nominate the Blacklist Exposed for the 2023 People's Choice Award. You can do that over at podcastawards.com. That's podcastawards.com. Go over there, put in your email, and scroll down and nominate The Hollywood Outsider in the entertainment category, and then the Blacklist Exposed in the TV and film category, as well as the Blacklist Exposed in the People's Choice category. Again, podcastawards.com, Blacklist Exposed in the People's Choice, Blacklist Exposed in TV and film, The Hollywood Outsider in entertainment. We would greatly appreciate it. It certainly helps out Aaron and myself, and we greatly thank you for all of the years that you have watched the show, listened to our podcast, and supported the Blacklist as the best fandom in the world. Hope you enjoy our final episode.
In 2017, 10 podcasts covering television and film were nominated. 5 were the top shows in Apple Podcasts. 5 were picked from a panel of the podcast's peers. The Blacklist Exposed was one chosen by their peers. This is what happened next.
And the winner is the Blacklist Exposed.
This is completely unexpected. Troy Heinrichs, Aaron Peterson, we are hosts of the Blacklist Exposed, and we just want to say thank you to the Academy for making this opportunity happen for independent podcasters. It's just absolutely fantastic. Most importantly, I want to thank our spouses for putting up with us, for putting so much time into the show, and the fans, of course, for watching the Blacklist and listening to us.
I just want to thank all spouses and significant others, honestly, for, you guys know that. I mean, we basically ignore them for God knows how long every single week. So. I don't even know what else to say, but thank you so much. This really means a lot. We've worked really, really hard on this and didn't plan on anything. So Thank you so much.
Just want to say a big thank you to Stuart Crane for believing in us to be on the TV Talk Network, and Daryl Darnell for giving us a home on Golden Spiral Media. Big thanks to John Bokenkamp, the writers, and the cast of The Blacklist for being so supportive in the show, and of course Sony Pictures Television for putting out a great product. Thank you very much for the award.
Welcome, everybody, to the very last edition of the Blacklist Exposed podcast. I am Troy Heinrichs, and with me, as always, is the ever-present and wonderful Mr. Aaron Peterson, and special guest with us this week. You may know him, you may love him. You definitely love his work, for sure, on the show. The head of the makeup department, Mr. Anthony Pepe, is here as well, and we are going to be having just some fun kind of looseness here as we wrap up the podcast once and for all. Unless you're going to talk that 50% of us are crazy and 50% of us aren't, and then we'll have different conversations, I guess.
There are those people.
Still, Anthony, even after season 8, people are still like, I don't get it. What was the show about?
My favorite questions are the ones where, whatever happened to Boz? Whatever happened to Mr. Kaplan?
Why did we name the congressman after the dog? Huh? That's a mental one. Think about it.
There
Hudson? There was a dog. What happened to the dog? He became a man. He grew up.
The dog was too expensive, probably.
It was. Congressman was cheaper.
Yeah, it was cheaper to get a lion, apparently.
Well, W.C. Fields said never work with kids or animals, and we did both.
That's true.
PETA would be proud.
Before we kind of lean into Mr. Pepe here, who knows a lot from the show. There's probably a lot he can't speak to or won't speak to. But he also is a fan of the show. He watched the show. So he's got his own theories and ideas. And but first I want to ask you, Troy, we're a couple weeks now removed from the finale. Has your opinion changed in any way, shape, or form, or are you still thinking bullshit?
That's a joke. I don't like the way. What I don't like about the finale is that Wrestler and Red never had any closure. That's the thing I don't like.
Like making out? Sure.
Or at least Wrestler returning the favor and giving some blood back to Red to try to save his life or something. I don't know.
Sure.
But just the fact that didn't get resolution kind of chaps my ass a little bit. But Red going toe to toe with the Bull, I've sat on it. I like the idea. I like the concept. I just don't understand where the hole came from. That's the only part that I don't get.
The hole?
The
You
hole.
mean the ditch that he was in?
Yeah,
Yes.
it was like a cave. Like, did the bull like sit down and like rub his butt in the ground first and then snap him to death? Like,
Pummeled him. Absolutely pummeled him.
The ground. Okay, so
Is it moist? Was it very moist?
No, so a little movie magic here. The bull was in a completely different field than the field that we shot James in. Never once was James and the bull in the same place because obviously it's a bull.
Seems dangerous, yeah.
They actually had the cameraman inside a giant cage that was resembling of like Jaws with Richard Dreyfuss. You know, cage going in the water, shark in the water. So they put him in the cage and they put the camera in the cage and the guy's in the cage and the bull's just like wandering. Took him 4 hours to shoot the bull. He didn't do anything. He just walked around.
He's a bull. He doesn't have to.
Bull, he don't care.
Yeah.
But the hole, when I got this, the land we were on was kind of divoted. You know, it was because it wasn't where the bull was. We were in a completely different field and it had grass in it because it was the only place we could land the helicopter. So I think they kind of cleared out the grassy area to kind of match what was going on in the bull's field. And that's why it kind of looked like a hole. I mean,
gotcha.
We don't know that. I think what happens is, you know, bull hits him, knocks his body 20 feet into a ditch. That's kind of, I don't think it was like a Warner Brothers thing where the bull just pow and the ground erupted.
It looks like Roadrunner was there. Yeah,
it does have a little bit of that.
It does.
Exactly what it looks like.
Yeah.
Can I ask you as somebody? I don't know how you tell me how you
ask me
feel
anything.
about it. Okay, I'll ask anything.
Ask me anything, and I'll tell you if I can say it.
How do you feel about how they wrap the show up in terms of the characters? Do you wish there had been more closure?
Well,
is there anything you wanted that you didn't get as a fan, I guess?
Yeah, there's a couple things. I mean, I've had conversations with Diego most of the time we were on set for most of the seasons where should have been like this, or we should have done this, or we should have done that. What I really wanted, I needed definitely a final conversation between Wrestler and Spader. I needed that. But when I've watched the ending 3 times now, and I remember even reading the script, it was sort of like Dembe gave you the ending. He was the final speech. He was the ending. And that's why Reddington had talked his entire life. He had given so many speeches, so many things. What else was he going to say that hasn't already been said? So I'm not mad at the fact that there wasn't a conversation between Wrestler and Reddington, but I see where they were going with it. Dembe ended the show. Dembe was the one who knew him the most. Dembe told Cooper, you know, rage against the light, rage against, you know, it's all about the adventure. It's not about the ending. They're telling you it's not about the ending. It's sort of like, you know, with The Sopranos, it all just cuts to black, you know, which to me, I loved. I absolutely loved the idea of it because it's unexpected. I think what Blacklist was trying to do was that we could give you a big, grandiose speech at the end, and Wrestler, I would have liked to have seen maybe a standoff, you know, Wrestler's gun, you know, things like that. But it's almost like it's predictable. Nobody predicted a bull, you know? And the fact that they're still talking about it weeks after the fact is it has something to say for it, you know? You could be mad at the ending, you know, people didn't like the Seinfeld ending. People love the Seinfeld ending. You know, it's like I loved it, but it's like MASH, the way it ended. People love it, people hate it. There's no way to please everybody. So I think what I like to think of it as the bull was death. Obviously, the big black bull in the field is death. And the way Reddington just turns around and looks at it, the same way he looked at the truck when he picked up that penny a few episodes before, he was waiting for death. He was dying of this mysterious illness. He was dying. And I think once he finally faced death, there was no running, there was no shooting, there was no big speech. So it would have been pointless to have Wrestler and him stand off at the end because there's nothing they were going to say that would have changed anything. Reddington still had to die. So if we just like literally throw a curveball and death hits you, you know, without even expecting it, and that's it, you know, I would have.
Yeah, because I heard into his speech that he gave. I think it was in season 5, like when the illness first started showing up a little bit, or maybe it was late 4 when he was just like, "Death is around me, and I'm just approaching from all 4 corners."
Right.
So it ties into the mythology of the show in that regard. Of he didn't fear death.
a lot of people are forgetting that, Reddington always had a thing about Spain too. I mean, 822, it was in a Spanish restaurant with the flamenco dancers and everything. So there was always a Spain thing. There was always a Spanish thing ingrained in the show. It's just most people don't remember that. And they're like, why did you go to Spain? He just loves the whole idea. I really think that the ending was right. Is it a fan favorite ending? No, of course not. You want a finale. You want a big thing. I don't know. It's one thing that did bother me about the ending, though, is the way we shot it. There was a lot more close-ups. Like the ending where he gets out of the helicopter, he walks over to Reddington, he puts the hat on. We did all that in close-up. So I'm lost on where that shot was because everything was so far away at the end. You see wrestler walk over, pick up the hat, and put it on the body. Yeah,
I mean, it was hard to see the first. I mean, you could see it, but it's
you could see it, but we did it like perfect. We did it where he, the music's playing. And I didn't like the music. I felt
would rather had the original song.
No, I think that I love the Gypsy Kings. It was a little too upbeat. I needed a more somber music for that scene. I needed people to be bawling, not more, because my wife watched it and she's more like, "What the f?" It's like
that's exactly how we all were.
No, my wife loved it. She's a big fan of the Gypsy King, so she was really happy with that song. But she's Spanish, so I don't know. Maybe it's rigged on her end.
Yeah, but I'm with you, Pepe. I wanted the. I guess I wanted to if they weren't going to have a conversation, there had to be some kind of like, I chased you my whole life. I understand you. When he puts the hat on his face, that had to have been a close up for a somber, respect moment, if you will.
Well, I love the moment. Just putting the hat was all he needed to do. But I
just wanted to see
it different. It's closer.
Yeah, it was a little more poetic the way Mike Caracciolo shot it. But once we shoot it and it goes to the editors, that's it.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I would have liked to have seen Diego's hair one more time, before we're done. Is he aware of how beautiful his hair is? I mean, he's got a wonderful coif of hair. Does he know
does
that?
It himself. Yeah, I mean, with every hairstylist, with every hair department head hairstylist, they cut his hair. They give him the products. He styles it his way, and that's how it's a chisel look. But he doesn't look like that in real life. In real life, his hair is always just kind of like just down.
Really?
Messy. Yeah, he wears it messy all the time when he's not working.
I love that they wrote the hair joke in for Red.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was just one of those things. Beautiful hair, that kind of thing.
It's given us plenty of ammunition over the years. Okay, other question. Big question. This is you might want to breathe before you answer it because you know how the internet is. In your opinion, and please, for anybody listening, he's not speaking on behalf of the Blacklist or John Bokenkamp or anybody else or Eisendrath. Who is Red Reddington?
Katerina Rostova. It's not even no doubt. It's not even a question. We've given you the answers since practically the first episode.
Yep.
They have been feeding it and feeding it and feeding. I knew it was Katerina once we started introducing lots of her beak in the show, the Katerina, the flashbacks. It was more like the how that I was curious about. Like, how did he do that? But we've had blacklisters that change your face. We've had blacklisters that's mentioned, wow, your surgery looks really good. Wow, you changed this. We've had blacklisters mentally change your minds. We've had every blacklister that he's incorporated himself with was able to help him change. We even did that whole flashback. Was it Nachalo or Rosvet where we showed the young Red Reddington with the surgery coming out of the car? I forget which episode that was. We've done it. We've shown you everything. And then on top of it, the whole the Liz Keane stuff where she's having the flashbacks and all the ghosts are coming in and talking to her in the Blacklist site. There's your answers. And then the final thing, when Liz is dying, there's this perfect shot in the montage where we see Katerina Rostova, lots of her beak, the actress, looking straight into her eyes, and then it morphs right into Reddington looking at her the exact same way. I mean, how much more do we have to force feed it? Like
followed by Lotta kissing baby Elizabeth, and then Red's kissing.
I mean, come on! You'd have to
Liz realizing it in the last moments of her death. Like that's why I don't like the whole. She read the letter. No, she didn't. That takes away from.
Well, yeah, the whole letter thing was shoehorned because we didn't expect how it was a change. We did not expect the actress Megan Boone to leave the show.
Sure.
So when she decided to leave in season 8, they basically had to rewrite their entire game plan, from what I understand.
Yeah.
So season 9 was a surprise that we got it, and then it was sort of like, okay, we're just gonna move forward, less blacklisty stuff. But we spent the whole season talking about who was Keen's killer, and then season 10 became more like Reddington's endgame per se.
Yeah. But yeah, no doubt.
It's Katerina Rostova. I mean, it's not even a question. And I, for lack of better terms, I got that straight from the horse's mouth. So,
Yeah. When did the crew know? Like, did you guys figure it out, or was it like you guys
you're not in the writers' room?
It was like a sit down, had a meeting, and they were like, "Hey guys, this is the answer, and we got to keep it hush hush."
No, it was not like that at all. Because most television and film crews, I was a devotee of the show.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really into it. A lot of other crew members, it's a job. It's not like, to me, Blacklist was more like it was a way of life. It's like, okay, this is what's happening in the story, and we got to make, this happens. Everybody's like, well, who's the actor today? What are we shooting? What time are we going home?
It's just like everybody's job. Yeah.
I mean, the actors, of course, we would discuss, who's Katerina, who's not. That question was floated around like early on, season 3, season 2, season 3. I was more akin to the fact that this show should have been more Blacklister of the week, and then dole in little bits of, their personal lives, sort of like how Law and Order SVU does it. It's always a case of the week.
Sure.
If we had done that, we'd still be on the air. And then,
yeah, especially after Keen died, I was kind of hoping that they would segue that way, and it would.
Yeah, it could have been Blacklister of the week, but then we started getting rid of the blacklists, so it's sort of like, kind of it was just figuring itself out, We
Mm-hmm.
got rid of the blacklist. Is that why 2's missing?
Dude,
that's my favorite episode, number 2.
That
honestly, I love when people say it's Neville Townsend. I'm like, no, it's not.
It's Arthur Hudson. The way I see it, it's Arthur Hudson.
Yeah, it has to be, right?
Yeah. It's the unnamed number 2, which I don't get it, but
yeah, there's only 3 people that could have been.
There's a rhyme and a reason for it, I guess.
Townsend, Hudson, or Red himself should have been 2.
Well, Red was 0, which I kind of like that because it's sort of like a roulette wheel thing. The 0-0.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I saw it. I was like, oh, look, it's the extra number that you don't bet on.
Sure.
You bet on red, you bet on black, but nobody bets on the green.
You don't bet on the green. You split the green.
Right,
That's
exactly.
Interesting point. That's interesting.
That's the way I always saw it. It's like, oh, it's just an extra number.
Are you like us? Were you as surprised as? Are you as surprised as us that some people just refuse to even see it? Like they still fight it and say the mythology doesn't hold. There's so many holes. I'm like, I've gone back and rewatched it, man. The mythology holds very well, actually.
It does. James told me himself, if you watch the show from the beginning, everything's right there. Now that you know what you know, watch the show from the beginning and watch it. Don't just like put it on in the background. You have to actually sit down and watch it. The people who are complaining whether or not he's Katerina or not, you're allowed to believe whatever you like. It's not up to the show to deliver the product what you want it to be. That's not what a television show is. A television show is a story, and you can either love it or hate it. It's like any story. You can't cater to everybody. And the problem with the internet is that everybody has a voice now. And especially the people who aren't really watching the show, they're just like, what do you mean he's a woman? Or how could he be a woman? He had sex with this person, this person, this person.
He's not a woman. He's not a woman. That's the thing. Like, I don't understand why this is so hard to grasp for people. I mean, if you do even a modicum of research on gender reassignment, that's why the name Katerina is not, when he refers to Katerina, it's in the past because it's considered a dead name, which means that's no longer who I am. I am Red Reddington. I have changed who I am. Right. I am a man now. And I am who I am. And that's what it is. Like, that's literally all it is. That's why people, he refers to Katerina in the past like it's another person. Like, that's how many people that have had that done do.
Yeah.
That is their former self. This is who they truly feel they are. So
Absolutely.
It's really not that complicated.
It's not. The whole thing about Reddington having sex with women, what people are close-minded about is that you don't know that Weecha or Luli or any of the other women he slept with weren't in like lesbians. So for all we know, if Reddington didn't have all the parts per se, you know, you don't know that he's not having sex. Some people have sex just by touching each other. Some people don't even have actual intercourse. They have tantric sex. You don't know it's not, you know, missionary intercourse here. That's what people are mistaking on that. Well, he can't be. What about the beard? What about this? What about that? There are plenty of women who can grow beards who don't even take testosterone. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's just
plus
part of.
He actually, in the context of the show, said, I've had relationships with women. I've had relationships with men. Very clearly in the show. I can't remember the episode, but it's there. Go find it.
Cello.
Thank you.
Pansexual.
Yeah.
Pansexual. He you know.
Because Katarina also had relationships with men and women, and then he had relationships with women and men. That was the...
Yeah. So as far as like, you know, gender reassignment or, you know, now the only thing that kind of throws me off a little bit is maybe the timeline of it, because if we're to suggest that this happened in the 90s or the 80s or whatever like that, it was a much different...
1990 to 1994.
Okay, so it was a much different time surgically than it is now.
But that's where TV comes into play, you know? You have to have
that's where TV comes into play, suspension of disbelief, you know? Yeah. Maybe they weren't burn scars. Maybe they were skin graft scars on his back.
No, I think they were burn scars, but it could be either one. Yeah.
Well, you know, that's the fact that we never brought them back again. It was one of those things where I had a set of burn scars ready to go at a moment's notice. I had them sitting in a mold ready to go for almost 10 years and never used them, but you never know. You know, it's just one of those mysterious things about Reddington. You're not supposed to know everything about him.
Right.
That's what makes him, you know, the mystery. That's what the appeal is.
And we should say, because just in case some people are still debating it, Daniel Knopf, who wrote Cape May, he's been on the show, you know, famous interview with us years ago. He's gone on the record and confirmed in our own Facebook group with people that, yes, that's the story as he knows it. That's the story that was told to him many, many years ago in the writer's room. That's always been the story. That's the story he wrote to. That's what Cape May is referring to. And he confirmed all of it. And he said, if you don't like, and now people, of course, there's actually people trying to tear his character down because he confirmed it. And I'm just like,
he left
enough,
the show.
man.
Like, I'm going to believe a guy who left the show and got fired from the show. And it's like, what? Come on.
He didn't get fired. So
he didn't get fired.
Enough. Yeah, enough. Just stop trying to. Oh, I don't even understand. I just don't. I just don't. It's gotten so wacky.
It's the internet, man. Everybody has a voice, and maybe not everybody should have a voice. You know.
I agree. We should take.
It was a lot quieter. It was a lot quieter in the 80s. You know.
So nice.
And the 90s.
And the 90s. Well, I remember I had my dial-up AOL early 90s, so I used to hang out in those chat rooms on AOL a lot, and just crazy stuff in there.
Man, I remember having dial-up until not too many years ago. It wasn't too long ago, and I had a roommate. This is when I was younger, but I had dial-up and had a roommate, and every time I picked up the phone, that son of a bitch was every time. Yeah. I don't want to know what he was doing, but always online. So what do you want to do from here, Troy? You want to go into like some of our favorite things since we're wrapping this whole baby up? I think we covered the big ones, right? The ending and who is Red Reddington. And I want to add, Red Reddington is the same character. It doesn't change no matter who he was. This is who he is.
Right.
You watched James Spader for 10 years. The actor portrayed the character that you all loved. The guy that had great stories, the one that shot people when he was waiting for a cigar to get burned, the guy that totally went Rambo in a prison. I mean, none of that has to do with anything that Katarina brought to the table, right?
Katarina was no slouch either.
Exactly.
Yeah, she wasn't.
She took out all those mercenaries in Cape May, so she was already trained from the get-go. So
she took out those mercenaries solo, with a partner.
Solo. He was just reliving that.
Remembering.
Yeah. Yes. And
but he wasn't remembering, Anthony. He was in a drug-induced coma at the time because it was all a dream because he was still in the opium den.
Right, because of Liz dying, right? But you asked me about closure of the characters. I mean, as far as like Reddington and Wrestler, I don't feel Wrestler got the right closure. I don't think I understand Dembe got his closure. Definitely Herbie. Herbie's was the best. I would have liked to have seen, sort of. I like how he wrapped up Brimley and Clark and Tadashi and Hetty and all that stuff like that. But I needed more. Actually, I should rephrase that. I liked the closure, how he shut down his businesses and he gave everybody the parties and just little by little just shut everything down. But I did need something of like I needed a Panabaker scene. Yeah. That's what I needed. I needed a Panabaker scene with Cooper because Cooper has been the glue of that show. Where Reddington was the star and doing everything, Cooper was the backbone of the show, and him sitting in the hospital listening to Dembe was great, but I needed something with him and Panabaker finally like, holy shit, it's over. I'm out of a job. That kind of something like that.
Right. Or just Panabaker calling.
Harry would have sold it.
Panabaker calling him on the phone, being like, "Hey, I need a VP."
Totally. I didn't need like a 5 years later thing. I didn't need any of that montage. No. That's a trope.
I do wish I would have got like Cooper coming home to Agnes and her saying, "I'm never saying the word pinky again," or something like that. Just
something like that. Or would have been a great shot of just Agnes in her bedroom, crying or something. She hears about Pinky dying, and she's holding her mom's badge. And there's like an aspiration in her eyes, no dialogue, and just looks up and says, like, I'm going to be a cop.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
It'd be cool, and that opens you up for a spinoff or reboot 10 years down the line.
Or she's looking at a fedora and the badge, and she can't decide.
I like that too. I like that
there
too.
You go.
That would have brought I needed a tearjerker ending, and I didn't really get that.
Yeah, but you got that and the real ending in season 8.
Yeah, season 8, people were crying, but season 10, I mean, Reddington, there are people who cried, but my wife will cry. She and I will cry at every Pixar movie. But, I'm expecting her, like, this is the ending of Blacklist. It's going to be sad. And she didn't cry. It was more like, what the hell? Really?
You're right, though, on Dembe's speech, though, because that's when I lost it, was like the knocking on heaven's door in Dembe's speech, and Red's walking around. I was like, wow, 10 years. This is the last time we're going to see this guy.
Right. And that's the end. Dembe had the last word. That was it. So I think it was a fitting ending for the show, because what else are you going to do?
Yeah, Dembe, you had Donald bending over going like, "Don't you die on me now." And he goes, "Well, looks like you finally caught your ... He never answered.
No.
Honestly, I didn't even need Wrestler saying that. I got him. He didn't need to say that at all. He could have just been totally no dialogue, gets on the phone, puts the hat on, gets on the phone, and that's it. You don't need to know what he's going to say.
The hat was like really, I thought, a very nice touch in terms of showing respect. It should have been a
close-up.
He showed respect.
But there was a close-up of it.
Should have been a close-up.
Because we shot that scene a couple times. Poor James was in that hole for a good hour and a half.
Well, making his money. Making that money.
We're going to do favorite moments of the show. And then
I've got just
moments
episodes,
of the
man.
podcast. Yeah,
I've got 10 episodes, so yeah.
So give us your top 10 of the Blacklist, and then top 10 of the podcast.
Do you want to do round robin, or do you want to do each person does 10, or how do you want to do it?
I think round robin would be fun. Yeah. It opens it up to more conversation.
Okay.
Let's go the show first.
Well, you start, Troy. You're Mr. Robot. You've got this all, you got all the details.
Well, it's only because I thought about it, because I was like, I got to edit this thing later. Like, should I have
if you're watching
prepared?
on YouTube, I need to refill my red wine.
That's how it works. I like how it made that nice boom.
Let
me open it up. Season 1, this is when I was like, wow, what is this show? They're in the box, episode 9, Ansel Garrick, and Luli is sitting there pleading with Red, and then basically Garrick just shoots her brains out and the blood splatter all over the box. Like, I was like, damn, that's like network television. You can't show that stuff. There's kids watching. That's when I knew there was something good going on.
I love that. Because that scene was the first day I ever worked on the show.
Oh.
The day I got called, because I wasn't working as the makeup department head on Blacklist for season 1. I was a day player. I didn't start the show until season 2, technically. But season 1, they called me in. I was responsible for putting the contact lens in Richie Coster's eyes for Ansel Garrick. I made Diego all sweaty as he was dying in the box. And I was there for that shot where Luli gets her brains blown out, not having a clue what was going on. But that's awesome that you like that. That's a very memorable day for me too.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I can tie it in because my number 10 was number 16, Ansel Garrick. I've got episodes. Troy's got moments. I don't know what Pepe's got. But
Memories.
I enjoy the episode because it's very reminiscent of Alias, but it also showed Liz kind of being a bit of a badass, and that Red wasn't all bad, even though he's pretty bad. And, I'm of the mindset that I think sometimes people forget he's not a good guy. He's a villain. He has killed innocent people. People keep saying he doesn't. That's nonsense. He has killed plenty of innocent people. Even indirectly, directly, whatever. So, gotten people killed.
I think my favorite memories are certain Reddington moments. Mm-hmm. And aside from like certain favorites that fan favorites, I do love the scene, and I can't remember the episodes or anything like that, but he obviously the one with the cigar and he can't wait. Oh, the suspension is killing me, and he shoots the guy, things like that. But there was one that really stood out for me that just I realized how cool this character was the scene where he takes the gun apart for a ROM, puts it in front of him, and he says, "All right, you put this back together, I'm going to shoot you." Something along those lines.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
That scene, I remember right there. I was like, wow, this is a cool idea, And then there was another one where he went to this guy's house. I remember the scene the day we shot it. He went to this guy's house, and the wife was locked in the pantry or something like that. And he shoots does he shoot the husband? And then like he goes up to the wife at the door. He's like, "I'm so sorry. I'm going to try your food later, but I got to go." Something like that.
Yep, the Stroganoff scene.
The beef stroganoff scene. That's it was so fun.
That one goes down in infamy for sure.
Yeah,
reminded me of 24 a lot.
It had
Jack shoots the wife.
That scene actually sparked a whole thing in the fan community where then there was a like who's eating what as they watch the show.
Oh, that's right.
From that point forward.
Oh, is that why people do that?
Yeah.
I seen that on the post. Like tonight, I'm having steak and tartare, and I'm having potatoes. The guys are going, I'm having Wendy's with
That's why. I've
seen that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Douglas actually had Stroganoff for the finale, if I remember correctly.
Just
seemed fitting.
All right, Troy, back to you.
I only say this because we figured out the mother thing kind of early in the show, but in season 2, Luther Braxton, the whole like, I haven't had anything this good in my mouth since Petty Officer. I forget what her name was.
Yeah,
and he's like, it tastes so good, I don't even want to say it because I don't want to spit it out. He's like, I told you so. That line is so good. and then Luther Braxton just hanging there afterwards, like look at him just hang up there like a side of beef.
Yeah. That was a great one, Luther Braxton. That was a lot of fun to shoot. Ron Perlman was such a cool cat.
He seems like a cool dude.
He really was. Cool. And I don't remember if I told you guys this story before, maybe on earlier podcasts when I was on, but Perlman, they wanted to put him in like these full prosthetic burns and everything like that. And I kind of sold them on, this guy spends his whole career under makeup. Can't we just like show his face for once and just like not put makeup on him? Not that I wouldn't have minded, but Ron's, he's an actor and he wanted to play a badass, and putting him under all this makeup would have just distracted it from his performance. And he brought it home, man. He was awesome.
He's always good. I
love
Ron Perlman. And he's just a fun guy to follow on Twitter or anything else.
Huge guy too. Like I couldn't believe how like just massive his hands and head. He was a big guy,
Big dude. My number 9 episode would be Mr. Solomon. Number 32. I love Eddie Gathegi as Mr. Solomon. It was kind of one of my favorite blacklisters. I love how he tortured our beloved Dembe. It's another 2-parter, but hey, it's
the pool balls, right? The sock,
yeah.
Pool balls. Yeah, I remember that. Eddie Gathegi.
He's just a fun villain,
Yeah, there was a lot of cool things they had going on in season 3. We had so many villains that was one of the things that kind of distracted. Like I remember telling you guys the whole story about how I thought about the Justice League of Doom coming back to come after Reddington, and like they were going to bring back all these blacklisters.
I was excited for that idea.
I was so excited for that, and once I started reading the scripts and Wu Jing's at war, I was a little disappointed that we didn't get that war. It was more like Casino and talk and oh look, I'm going to steal this truck or something. It just felt And I think we were limited by the budget. I don't have any knowledge of the budget. I don't know how the production works on that end of it. I only know what I read and what I see. But there was definitely a change. If you watch season 1, season 2, any police action scene, we'd have like 50 background, ambulances, fire trucks, cop cars. Season 10, a cop, 2 cops maybe. And also, you'd also notice that in the earlier seasons, they would always go to the person's house to interview them. They wouldn't bring them to a secret location underground. And the main reason
blindfolded. Yeah.
Blindfold. Yeah. I mean, they weren't blindfolding everybody, bringing them to the post office. It's sort of like, oh, look, you have this secret lair. It was more like it became a budgetary thing. We couldn't shoot on location as much. We went from shooting 10-day episodes to 7-day episodes, which is unheard of in network television. Mm-hmm. Banging out an episode every 7 days. It's insane. So that you could kind of feel how, and that's probably one of the reasons why we didn't get a lot of blacklisters that were still alive.
Probably.
You know, I mean, granted, some of the best blacklisters were dead, you know, but I felt we could have gotten some really cool ones. I would have liked to see Gina Zanatacos come back. Yeah. Or, you know, same. Or, I mean, there's so many names out there that I can't remember who's alive, who's dead. But there was so many good ones that were just like, oh, we could have gotten this guy. We could have gotten this one. But, you know, just didn't pan out that way. Even if we got Famke Janssen or Eddie Gathegi or any of those people, you know, sort of like bring back the redemption in a little bit.
Yeah. I was hoping for Famke to come back at some point.
Yeah.
Loved her.
Totally.
Troy, I think we're back to you, right?
We're
back to Troy?
Pepe's up.
Oh, Pepe?
Oh, do I have a favorite memory? I don't know. It's kind of odd for me because I can't really put down special moment. Like I had so many special moments, but they were from a different viewpoint because not as a viewer, but as I lived it. Mm-hmm. Some of the best things I remember is like one of my favorite things we did was when we blew up that truck was it season 2 or season 3? We had a scene where, it was Karakurt's blowing up trucks or something like that. And Diego and Megan are coming to the truck and we blew it up and they go flying back. That explosion, I remember being there for that it was so large and so loud that we were shooting next to LaGuardia Airport and they thought a plane had gone down.
Oh my God.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we made the news that night because the explosion was so loud and just rocked most of Flushing area of Queens that we were on the news. People were like, you broke my windows and look at this crack in my foundation. You know, this is from the explosion. I mean, it was massive. It was literally like a bomb just went off in clouds of smoke and everything. So I remember vivid moments like that. I had a lot of laughs on the show. I had a lot of, you know, anxious moments, you know, it's good and bad. But yeah, those certain things I have to kind of like remind myself what happened. So it's easier if you tell me the episodes and then I'll start going back and remembering things.
All right. You're up then, Troy.
Well, I mean, season 3, you know, I don't think you can't talk about season 3 without talking about Kate May and the entire sequence of Liz's death. And I think this is one of those things where it's like we paid attention to the show probably a little too much at some points because I remembered like when Liz died, I'm like, there's no way she's dead. I cried because like the way Reddington saw the death and Reddington believes she's dead. So therefore we all should believe she's dead. But if you remember, there's like 2 episodes right before that where Red and Dembe are talking about the Fugokimo and about how it's like this Japanese puffer fish that if you prepare it the wrong way, you could actually die or at least look comatose. Well, of course, Kaplan's going to know about this. So Kaplan's the one that probably used that toxin to fake her death and make sure she was hidden and then, of course, stolen by, you know, her dad, quote unquote, in Alexander Kirk. That's the stuff on the show that just makes you go like, man, it's like they really thought about. And I think that's the thing about TV and movies that Aaron and I always talk about. Show me, don't tell me. There was a lot of show me in the Blacklist. And I think people are like, tell me. And you're like, no, it's there. You just got to see it. Got to see it.
The show didn't spoon feed it to you. You know, there was the exposition stuff, you know, in later again, goes back to the budgetary concerns where instead of showing you the things like, okay, they're going to go over here and we checked out this warehouse. This warehouse was empty and there was nobody there. They would just tell you about it in the war room. but that became a budgetary thing. But earlier on, we had a lot more exposition that we would actually show it and shoot all these various scenes. You know?
Yeah, let's be clear. Like, Nachalo 821 was probably going to be the dumbest episode of the Blacklist because you were literally getting 42 minutes of exposition.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the way that James recommended to do it noir style, the way Kirk Keen, the way he directed it, was just an amazing thing. And it's probably one of the better episodes of TV in a long time.
Oh, I love that. Megan sold it. It was such a good, it was a good way to do it. I actually remember that time when we were shooting it and I sent you a screenshot just to show you like, hey guys, this is what's going on right now. And I showed you Megan with all the ghosts behind her.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And I was like, don't talk about it. But it's like, hey, look, this is what's happening right now. It's like blowing my mind. No, that was a beautiful episode. I really loved, because we all thought that was the end of the show. The original ending was supposed to be Megan taking over, or Megan, becoming Reddington, and like Agnes would grow up to be a Fed, and she would like, I only want to talk to Agnes Keen, that kind of thing.
Kind of repeat the cycle.
Sort of like repeat the vicious cycle. But yeah, it just didn't pan out that way. So I'm impressed with what the writers had to deal with over the years, especially 719 when we got shut down because of COVID.
The cartoon episode, the animated episode,
the PlayStation episode. I like to call it.
I like that one a lot,
great.
man. I know it wasn't like the best animation out there, but
it ain't Pixar. But it
was cool. It was cool.
It was the fact that they did that in 6 weeks is unbelievable. And yeah, so what if the animation looked funky? Honestly, if they had done it like, stick figures or something, or like cartoon panels or something. But I thought it was ingenious how, with all the shows shutting down and everybody thinking like, COVID's going to decimate the world, we're just still trucking along, you know? So
still got it done.
In the face of adversity, they did it.
And the style of the show in that 719 fits the style, right? We had 2 graphic novels that were created for the Blacklist that are in canon. There are some
Did
other
you guys ever
books.
play the app?
Yeah, the app was great.
Did you ever play that game?
Yeah.
There was an actual game, an app game called the Blacklist. And it was like one of those like find hidden things in the pictures and such, finding clues. But yeah, it was pretty funny.
And then there was a whole escape room, right? The Ardit was ARDIOT, but it was like 10T or something, like idiot, but it was Ardiot.
Oh, I didn't know that one.
And it was at the New York Comic Con, so it was like an escape room type situation.
That's
no kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Awesome. I mean, the Blacklist went on for a lot of different things that I never read the comics, and I just never saw them. I never knew where they were.
Yeah, they weren't widely available.
Yeah.
And what's funny is like a lot of these two are like the pivotal moments of the Red Arena Mother Theory concept, right? People like go back to Ansel Garrick and they say like that's the one episode where it's like, well, remember when he said in the box like, "Let me sleep like I was a boy," and they're like, well, yeah, because he always wanted to be. He was the son, I was the son my father never had, and
exactly. I mean, you don't know what Dom was doing to Katarina. Confused. Like Dom obviously was not the best father. We don't know what Katarina's mother was like, and Katarina probably grew up very confused, forced into this military lifestyle. We showed Katarina running guns and running drugs and God knows what, making deals and doing handoffs and such like that. So this was not a normal kid growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So people making those assumptions on who Reddington was based on what they know, they're not looking deep enough into what kind of lifestyle that girl lived.
It was the season 3 DVD specials when Eisendrath said, the best clues we can give anyone are the ones we give on the show.
Yeah, it's literally right there. And even from reading the scripts, when I read the scripts, I don't immediately catch the clues. I would read it, and then once we start shooting it and I realize, oh, wait, this is starting to make sense. It would all come together for me once I see the actual episode on the air, weeks or months later. Then it all comes together. I'm like, oh, right, we did this, this, and this. Now that makes sense why we shot it like that.
Where it all came together for me, number 14, Adrian Shaw, which is, I think I have it right.
Was it Dr. Adrian Shaw?
Dr. Adrian Shaw,
yeah. 4849, 4748.
Yeah, but I tried very hard to like never rule it out, but this was the episode, again, a 2-parter. whatever. So I get like 6 episodes out of 3. What I decided, like, Troy was right in that episode because I went back and forth throughout the years just because I'm like, they're never going to do this. That just feels like a stretch. But at the end, when Kirk or Konstantin Rostov, whatever you want to call him, he's got Red dead to rights. There's literally nothing to stop Kirk from killing Red. And that's all Kirk wants, right, is to kill Red. And then Kirk demands the truth. And Red says, she is my daughter. Never, I am her father, just she is my daughter. And then Red asks how Kirk and Katerina met. Red wants to remember the woman Katerina was, and then Red starts remembering a little too vividly, as though he knew her better than,
some might
Constantine ever did. And if you go rewatch this scene with the idea that Red was Katerina, it's brilliant. It really is. And then Red whispers something in Kirk's ear, which that something I'm assuming was "I am Katerina," I assume, or something to that effect, because there's literally there's nothing else.
Safe word.
Yeah, there's nothing else that would convince Konstantin to stop at that point. Plus, the astounded way that Rostov handles whatever Red whispered was painfully obvious. Now, especially, but go back to and listen to our discussion on that episode. We said it then too, but that's really where, even though, on the show I have to play devil's advocate because otherwise we'd just be all knee deep into what Troy's crazy theories are.
Right.
But that's really the moment where I'm like, you know what? I think Troy might be right. I think Troy's right. And now now I understand why they made a Heinrich's hospital,
Right. Yeah, Reddington was under the truth. It was a serum, right? He was sweating. He was injecting him. So whatever he said, he wasn't going to lie. When we shot that scene, I remember the whispering part of it. He was actually saying something, but we couldn't hear. Like there was actual vocals, So I remember my key makeup artist ran over to the sound guy and grabbed the cans to
trying to hear
what they were saying, but it was more like it was just like. So
it was.
We knew it was something big, but even the crew, we did not know what they were saying.
Said.
No, to this day, I still don't know what they were saying. But yeah, it's 100%. Katerina is not dead. I had to change. I'm really, really Katerina. She's really my daughter. Blah blah blah. Blurt it all out.
Yeah.
And that you can't do it like the Tacoma House has been the big one. There was recently a guy, Justin Nieves. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. He posted a shot of episode 7, season 1, where they come into the house with Lou Lee, and then an exact comparison shot that Kurt grabbed for the Nicello episode. And if you look at those two pictures side by side, it's like, how do you not see this? Like it's the same house.
Yeah. The house that he burned down.
It's same set. Yeah, and then he's walking by the window, and he's standing in the window, and everybody's like, "Oh, he's remembering Bubble Girl." And why would he have any kind of memories about Bubble Girl? Because
Sorry to interrupt. Bubble Girl's the shot of the kid on the swing with the mom, but the sunlight.
No, Bubble Girl is Jennifer playing in the front yard, running around with the bubble wand.
Oh, okay.
And they're like, "Well, why would he feel that way? He never felt anything about Jennifer, because that's clearly how he acts to her in season 5, episode 20." Is like a complete blow off. And you're like, no, Katerina is remembering holding baby Liz in the window and the good times that she had, and that this is where it all went to shit because she messed up.
Right. Crazy, huh?
That's crazy.
And that's the show. The show is the lexical ambiguity. You could take it any way you want.
You've just been dying to use that. You've just been dying. Like, where can I put lexical ambiguity in here somewhere?
It's why the show works, though. It's brilliant writing.
I get it. I feel like you got a trademark on it at some point.
Yeah. John said it first, not me.
Take a shot. Finish your episode list.
Okay, so a lot of them are just like, I really enjoyed the fake Kaplan in season 9. I thought that was really clever because we all kept saying Kaplan's going to come back. Kaplan's going to come back.
Oh my gosh, dude! I read the script and damn near shit myself. I was like, oh my god, they're bringing Susan back. I love that woman, Susan Blommer.
She's
I don't
delightful.
know if you guys ever met her.
We had dinner with her. She's wonderful.
She is an amazing person, inside and out, and just so excited that she was coming back because we had her for the scene where Red's girlfriend dies.
Anne?
Yeah, where the girlfriend dies, she gets hit on the table, and Kaplan's there talking to Megan,
Liz,
right?
As the ghost, right?
Yeah, as the ghost. So we were excited for that, and then when we saw that, oh my god, she's not dead. this is awesome. And then it's a sister. I felt cheated. I felt thoroughly cheated by that.
We all did. We all did.
It was so like not cool, you know.
It's the only time in the show where I actually was like, well, no, 2 times that I was actually kind of duped. I was pretty good most of the time. There was the 2 were one of my other favorite moments was when we said on this podcast, I was like, I'm not going to give up on the mother theory until Red says to another woman on the screen, "Hi, Katarina," and I feel like John just wrote that for the end of season 6 to screw with me.
Mess with you, yeah.
I was like, you son of a bitch.
I mean, the thing is this about the Katarina thing, maybe, and, you know, Reddington knows who he was and remembers everything, but maybe certain things were out of sorts, because it's not like Reddington hasn't had his mind changed before by other blacklisters or whatnot, or other bad guys. Who knows what other stories. Maybe he really thought that was Katarina. Maybe he thought he was seeing a ghost. You know, there's so many introverted things that Reddington could have been doing that you can't take the blacklist at face value. You know, you have to open up your own theories about it, because that's what makes the show work. If you sat there and every word for word and you actually looked at the transcripts and said, okay, this is what he said, that's what it means, the show goes nowhere. It's impossible for the writers. And remember, it's not the same writers, too. The writers have changed out over the seasons. Yeah. It's not like there's a blacklist Bible somewhere where everybody's oh, wait, this happened in episode 112, so we can't do that, you know? It's just the nature of production, you know. People are just running with the wheel and trying to catch up. It's not like they're sitting there with a wiki page of Blacklist and saying, "Okay, this is how it's supposed to be." You know,
well, they're pretty good about it for a long time. Yeah,
they were good about it. No, they were good about it. It still doesn't excuse there's no number 2.
No. Nope.
That's an oversight of grand proportions.
I'd throw the Stew Maker in there, number 161. Yeah. That's one of my favorite episodes.
I think the Stew Maker's great. But everybody says the Stew Maker because why? Was he that memorable?
Because
you hadn't seen anything like that on network television.
I had. I just love Tom Noonan. It's literally Tom Noonan. I'm a huge Tom
Noonan is awesome.
Manhunter is one of my favorite movies. I absolutely adore it, though it does not hold up in today's era, because it's definitely the most 80s thing to ever 80s. But I still love it, and he's great in it. And, you know, I love the farmer's story. I think that's a good parable that's dropped in there. And, you know, it could be about the Stew Maker, could be about Red. That was a good one. But you're right. That I think I even mentioned that on the last episode. So I'll throw in the Gin. I love the Gin, 43, which is, I think, one of the probably the most impactful series of the. Oh,
that was episodes. The one with the girl who was a boy?
Yeah, the woman who helped get people get revenge. And then she was forced to have a sex change by her father, and you know, and then she basically inflicted torture on her dad at the end, and just all around deeply affecting. Yeah, that was a great episode of TV.
I don't know. I have so many favorite blacklisters out there. I mean, Alan Fitch, you know, the Decemberist one was great.
Was Alan Alda just a delight?
Very cool.
Yeah, very cool. He seems like a cool guy.
What did he say to me? Oh, we were talking in the chair and I was doing his makeup, and he goes, "What time do you think we're going to get out of here today?" I'm like, "I don't know. You only have the one scene. Obviously, it's when we blow up your head, but we only have the one scene today, and should move pretty fast. They're already set up for it." He goes, "Oh, I got to get going. I'm going to the theater tonight to see my friend Candy perform." And I'm like, "Candy?" And I couldn't place it. I'm like, "I'm sorry, who's Candy?" "Candace Bergen." I was like,
"Oh, wow."
I'm like, "Oh, Candy, right. First name basis, you know, got it. Totally cool." I didn't talk about MASH, and I regret it because I should have, but I didn't, because I didn't know the show well enough. MASH was a little before my time. Like, I grew up more like Three's Company, Facts of Life era. So MASH to me meant it was time to go to bed when I saw MASH on TV.
Yeah,
it's like,
that's fair.
It's nighttime. So I didn't want to talk to him about MASH because I didn't know the show well enough to really converse with him about it. But very gentle, very soft-spoken, very quiet guy, but total professional. Got blood all over him that day.
Let me ask you a question, because you did 10 years, tons of guest stars. I know you put a lot of makeup on people. Who got you the most starstruck? Like, I know you're a fan of content too. Like, which one where you're just like, man, this one gets me. This one gets me.
Oh gosh, there's a couple. I I'm gonna go. Okay, there's a couple. Let's see. The most starstruck. One of them that I'm gonna go with the nerd one first because the nerd in me completely geeked out. Daniel Shore. Most people don't know who he is, Daniel Shore played the character Ram in the movie Tron.
Okay, yeah, that's.
He also played Billy the Kid in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Wow,
and he's been in a couple of things. Like you've seen him. He played the guy. He played the guy of season 9, I think, where he was a Rom's. He was the guy that a Rom went to say like, "Hey, how do you know that?" Like he's the guy that invented the software that a Rom was like, "I just broke your software."
I remember that. Yeah.
So Dan Shore. Now I'm 40. I'm pushing 48. So I never expected that I would meet somebody from a movie from 1982. You know, especially one of my favorite movies of all time. And I was geeked out. I just completely lost it and lost all semblance of professionalism. Like I wore a Light Cycle shirt and I brought my Tron movie and I said, "Would you please sign this for me? It is so cool to meet you." And he was blown away. It was really cool. Cool. We've had some really big ones on there, like just Annabella Sciorra. She was on the show. She was the one who was doing the removing people's hearts. She was a great guest. She was really cool. Like
big fan of hers.
There was so many like famous people. Nathan Lane blew me away. Totally nice guy. He played the Abraham Stern. It was the 100th episode. And I guess I have to say Paul Rubens, because meeting Pee Wee Herman is like meeting Mickey Mouse. He's not even an actor. He's an icon.
Yeah. He is
like people in like Sri Lanka know who Pee Wee Herman is. Do you know what I mean? It's just one of those. It's above celebrity status. Are
you humming the song in your head the whole time when you put the makeup?
No, he was cool. We talked a lot of cool stuff. I think I might have mentioned it last time I spoke on the podcast, but yeah, Pee Wee Herman was definitely one of them. There's so many stars that I've met on the show that, and I was more akin to the stars that nobody else knew who they were. Like, oh my gosh, did you see that the guy who played the Dean in Revenge of the Nerds is on the show today? And the rest of the makeup crew will be like, who? Because they're all in their 20s and 30s. I'm like, have you not seen Nerds? It's like nobody saw Nerds, but it's like I was more into those guys. Oh my God, I have his thing right here. Andrew Divoff. I have it right over here. Oh man,
Toy Soldiers. Toy Soldiers. You know Toy Soldiers then, right? Sean Astin.
He signed me that, but I mean, he's the Wishmaster, so it's like, how can you not, So yeah, there's been a lot of cool celebrities on the show.
Okay, other celebrity question, just because people always ask, and it's like, all right, I'll ask Pepe. Give me your best story of James Spader that explains James Spader, who's not the Spader they know. Does that make sense? Like, not the tortured, dramatic actor, but like just James Spader as a guy, as a regular person.
That's a
loaded question.
No, not really. I gotta think about that because James walks into the room and the air comes out. Like it's like he sucks the air out of there not because he's like a bad guy, because he commands. Like when he starts talking, everybody shuts up and you're looking right at him, and you just get so entranced into what he's saying because he's so well spoken. And we could not even be talking about the show. And I very rarely had few conversations with him that weren't show related because he comes to work. He's here to work. He's not here to hang around and goof off.
Yeah, we remember because when we were on set and met you, and then James comes in from off the street, Aaron and I both like took a step back because he came in like full trench coat with the hat. I thought he was ready to.
Yeah.
No, he wears that hat. Like he wears his hats and trench coats. That's him.
We were just like, wow. It's like, it's ready to, like, wait, no, it's James.
But honestly, the best conversation, the best situation I've ever had with James was the last day we shot the show. We were in Spain, in Madrid. We were in the trailer, and James had just finished the scene where he's dead in the ground, and we're in the trailer, and they're cleaning him up. Now, I don't do James's makeup. He has his own personal. So I'm just sitting there, and we are hours away from finalizing this show. Hours away. And I'm just like, James, can I ask you a question? And he's like, sure. I'm like, what was your favorite episode of the show? Just to see where it would go. And he could have just said like, the Decemberist, and that's it. But he stopped, and next thing I know, we are in probably an hour conversation about the show. Every little detail, every little thing, like things I didn't even realize, like how the character was fleshed out and how he had spent all this time and how they dealt with like the LGBTQ communities and like making sure that everything was going to be cohesive. Like the show had a definite game plan. Things changed throughout the course of years. COVID happened. Megan left the show. Everything changes, you know. It had to be organic. If you'd stuck to the script the whole time, we were lucky we made it past season 5. But during that time, it was probably the first time I've ever been in the room with James where I didn't feel like I was an employer type situation, because he's an executive producer as well.
Right, so
it's
he was a boss.
He's a boss. You know, you watch your toes around a boss. Not that he was a bad boss, but it's just like, you know, you have a certain demeanor.
Gotta do it with every boss. I get it.
And especially with James Spader, you know, it's like he has his room a certain way. But next thing I realize is as we're having the conversation, I took a step back and I got the costume designer is in the room. Diego is in the room. His makeup artist, the Spanish crew, some of the crew is in the trailer with us, and they're all just captivated listening to him explain the entire story of the Blacklist to me. And it's only just me and him talking, you know, and
but everybody's enjoying it.
And everybody's into it. And I think my wife said this to me, the reason why he had that conversation with me so in depth is because he knew that I followed the show. It wasn't just a paycheck. I actually watched the show and learned these characters and remembered this story, remember that story, remember that story. And he would bring up names like Ivan Stepanov and the architect and all these names that were thrown out and what their real meanings were behind it. And it dawned on me, I'm like, oh my gosh, this all makes perfect sense now. That's why the ending didn't really bother me at the end, once I realized how James saw the show. So that would probably be my most memorable experience with it, if that answers the question, I guess.
The best part about your whole answer is you were slick enough to not really divulge anything that was talked about. I like that.
Well, because
it's a private conversation. I'm kind of like the same way. Like if I have, you know, we've you know, any private conversation I've had, I don't like to talk about the details. I'll tell you,
James wouldn't appreciate it if I went and told. Like when James, the last day we shot in New York, James came out to the crew. It was the scene we had built the kitchen in Spain in New York. And we flew out the actress who played the woman who was taking care of the house.
Sure.
We flew her out from Spain to shoot scenes in New York because all the interiors you saw in Spain in that house were in New York.
Got it.
Except for the scene where Diego goes and there was a hallway filled with animal heads and such. But all the kitchen stuff, we built the kitchen because the real kitchen in Spain was way too small. So we built a bigger kitchen. James came out. It was the last day of New York. New York was done. We were about to go have drinks. James came out and gave a speech. And some people broke out, you know, as most kids do. They'll do this and break out their phones.
Yeah.
And immediately James is like, you know, I really would appreciate it if you don't record this. And they didn't. And it made sense because some things just aren't meant to be documented. You just have to experience it.
They're your moments, you know?
They're your moments. And the conversation between me and James. And even if I try and tell you every word that was said, I can't remember it because it was a conversation. I wasn't documenting it. I was just talking to him person to person. And it was enlightening. It was awesome. It was one of the best moments I've ever had on the show.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And it was the plan. I mean, granted, things have changed.
Now you're asking him to answer a question.
That's
not his place to answer.
Well, you know, that's between Bokenkamp and Eisendrath and Spader and whatever they wrote and whatever. I only know what I see. I don't know what went on behind closed doors. You don't know how the sausage is made. You know what I mean?
There you go.
Yeah.
My other, we talked about Nachalo and Canettes, and, you know, to me, that's a real series finale. That's for the mythologies
What's
revealed.
Canettes?
Cognates.
Cognates.
Cognac.
I'm not Russian, dude.
Neither am I.
Right?
Neither am I, but, you know.
Cognates.
Cognacs.
You know, in the ending shot with Liz dead, Red holding her as a baby and everything else, you know, Red's from herself. But my other favorite episode, this is my last one, then we can go to podcast memories or anything Troy wants to talk about, is Ian Garvey. Because and I'm going to give you guys one guess why I love this episode so much.
I know.
Anybody?
I know.
Anybody? Pepe, you want to guess?
Johnny Coyne. That's his name, the actor. Johnny Coyne. Great guy. What was the question? I was just thinking about Ian Garvey for a minute. I'm sorry. I was thinking about Ian Garvey.
Why do you think that's my favorite? One of my favorite episodes.
Because he kills Tom Keene.
Yes. God bless you.
I don't understand why you didn't like Tom Keene. I never got that. I know Ryan. Ryan's cool people, but
nothing against Ryan. It's not against Ryan.
The character wasn't bad. It was a good thing. I think it lost its way. I think it lost its way later on. Like,
he was better in season 1 and season 2, and it was Tom Bond than when he was.
No, he was neo-Nazi and all that shit. What?
4.
Come on,
because he was the Nazi in season 2.
Yes, he's a Nazi. He should have been killed off in season 1. I agree. That's when he should have died. And then they kept him around, and then they fall back in love. And I'm like, this guy just like tried to murder you. I don't know how many times. And now
it was awesome. It was
love, and we got a baby.
No. It was kind of like that movie with Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. Where
is it a shitty movie? It's got to be a shitty movie.
No, the one where they're both spy, Mr. and Mrs.
Smith. Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
It had that relationship to it, and I thought it was kind of cool because you fall for this teacher thing. Tom Keene wasn't a bad character.
It wasn't at first. It's just the fact that she kept going back to him. I'm like, no, I can't.
Well,
just can't.
What happens is, when you have an ensemble, because remember, back in season 1, season 2, the ensemble was 9 major characters.
Sure.
If you look at season 2, I mean, they're on my shirt right now. You got Megan, you got Diego, Aram, Hisham, James, Susan, Harry, Mojan, and Ryan. They have to write arcs for every single one of them. And James gets the screen time too. So it's like, how do you write arcs for everyone? And you got to basically cater to them in almost every episode. So Tom Keene might have gotten passed by the wayside, and maybe his arc wasn't as strong. But I liked Tom Keene. He had kind of the edges. I liked whenever Tom Keene and Wrestler fought. After
season 1,
the gnome scene. That's one of my favorite scenes. The gnome scene.
The gnome scene.
After season 1, every scene he was in, I'm just like, you should be dead. You should be dead. You should just be dead. And it's nothing against Ryan. Ryan was fine. Went on that great acclaim in his other show. He made a ton of money there. So, hey, I'm happy for him. He made a movie I thought was really good, and I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head.
He worked on it was something about
He directed one. He directed a movie.
Oh, I didn't know he directed one. I know he was in a movie where he played like some sort of Nazi or something.
No, I can't remember the movie, but he did direct it.
It was a Spike Lee movie, wasn't it? It was.
He was in a Spike Lee movie.
Right around the 100th episode.
He did that too, but he also directed one that was.
I didn't know he directed one. He didn't call me for it, so I don't.
He's great on New Amsterdam. He's really.
I never watched it. I never watched Amsterdam. I was like, I can't watch because I can't watch Ryan Eggold be someone else now. It sucks. So
Tatiana Petrova, Lila Robbins was also on New Amsterdam with him.
Oh, I see. I saw that picture. Lila was great. She was really awesome, and she had. She brought life into a room every time. You think she'd be stuffy or just the way she presented herself, but she came in full of laughs. And Lila was just Lila Robbins. Is actually her name.
Oh, it's not Robbins. It's Robbins.
Robbins, yeah.
Okay,
but she was just great. Beautiful person. Beautiful.
Hey, by the way, she's not Katerina Rostova, guys. I mean, I wish people would just.
She never was.
No, she never was.
Let's answer Richard's question since we're talking about this.
Okay.
So Richard asked the question: did we ever hear what happened in Belgrade? And
that's the explosion. Yeah.
I love that people still ask this question because it was literally told to us what the answer was in Nachalo, in A21, like point for point, word for word. And the thing that I love, this is one of my favorite memories of the show and of the podcast, was that Aaron and I were like, dude, we saw through this one from a mile away. And then we interviewed John, and John's like, I can't remember exactly what we said, Aaron, but he was just like, what do you mean? And I was like, John, come on. We all know that it's not really Katerina, right? And John's like trying to dance around it. And we totally backed him into a corner. It was so funny.
Yeah, that was funny. Because that was one where, I mean, I really feel like if you were casual fan, okay, I could see how that worked for you, but or how that fooled you, But if you've been following the show, you should immediately go, no, that's not Katerina Rostova.
Right.
Especially when the dialogue happens. Ilya goes to Dom. It's like, I don't understand. You want me to kill your daughter? And then Dom goes, no, I want you to hear my plan.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, so we're clearly not killing the daughter. So,
I mean, in the defense of people who thought that was Katarina, I thought the same thing because as we get the scripts, I read it and there's no reason to think otherwise that this woman who accosted Red in Paris isn't Katarina Rostova because we don't know what the future's holding. So,
sure.
Well,
I believed it at the moment. You know,
that's exactly it. And I think that's the struggle that people have with the show that don't understand what's going on because they say, oh, well, Bokenkamp and Eisendrath, they lied in the interviews. They said this was Liz's mom. They said this was Katarina.
They
don't lie. In that moment, at that time, that woman was Katarina Rostova. Just like in that moment, at that time, James Spader played the character of Raymond Reddington. He was Katarina Rostova. She was Tatiana Petrova.
And they were very careful with their answers, too. I mean, I remember John very carefully saying, that's who Liz believes is her mother. Or that's Liz's, as far as Liz is concerned, it's her mother or something like that. It was framed in how Liz sees her as opposed to how we see her. And it was, I mean, he was always very good at that.
Yeah, like Eisendrath says.
Which is why that whole mystery drug on for 27 years because he was so good at spinning those wheels, you know?
Well, the thing is,
Eisendrath said on the season 6 DVD that we were on, it's like the end of the segment that Aaron and I are on. He says, we understand why people will think that it's something familial. We understand why that is. The way he says it, you could hear him say it's not familial if that's the way you're listening to it. But if you listen to it, he never says it's not familial.
Right.
Yeah.
These Russian spies are experts in brain manipulation and memory changing and stuff like that. So at that point, there's no reason not to believe that if Tatiana is told you are Katarina, you are Katarina, you are Katarina, she's only going to respond to Katarina. You know, that's who she is. That's who she's going to. Same thing with Reddington. Same thing. So even though somewhere in the back of their mind that's suppressed, that they know who they are, there's no reason to doubt what they say. Everything's on face value for certain things. Like, this is Tatiana, this is Reddington, whatnot. It's just you have to take it and look deeper into it. You have to understand the backgrounds of it. You can't just look at these characters and be like, oh, well, that's not the mom. That's not this. It's so convoluted, but it's actually plain as day.
Well, and then the finale when Layla shows up first, it just shows up and Red goes up and she kisses him and he just says Katarina or whatever. Mm-hmm. I think in that episode we're like, well, I guess that kills the whole mother theory. And then the first episode back, we're like, nope, still on. That's not her.
Yeah. They weren't very good at keeping those secrets, though.
Yeah, second episode, because she goes after Dom, and we're like, why the hell would her daughter go after Dom? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to memories. You want to do memories?
Yeah, podcast memories or show memories for Anthony, or podcast memories if you got him, Anthony. But that's the first time I've ever called him Anthony. Pepe.
I just call him Pepe.
Yeah, I appreciate
Pepe's cooler. You prefer Anthony? We'll call you Anthony. That's your name.
So on set, it was always Pepe. In gym class in 3rd grade, it was always Pepe. I don't get it. Everybody just calls me
You know
that.
why it is? Because Anthony's a pretty common name, and Pepe is just catchy. It's just a catchy.
You know what's funny? Pepe's. I went to Spain and confused the hell out of the Spanish crew because in Spain, Pepe is a nickname.
Yeah.
It's not an actual name. It's like a nickname. Like, oh, that's Carlos. We call him Pepe. So everybody thought that was my name and not realizing it was my last name because I'm Italian. So in Italian, Pepe is a last name, so.
Okay. Anthony.
No, Pepe's fine. I totally respond to Pepe. I totally get
Anthony.
The only people that don't call me Pepe is my family. It's just fine.
Well, because they'd be confused because they wouldn't know who they're talking to.
You can call me
all of us. Yeah. All right. You listen to the podcast the whole time. I mean, you've given us plenty of feedback where you're like, you guys are idiots. You guys don't know what the hell you're talking about. I mean, you've been very.
I've never said that. I remember the one time where the sound was cutting out horribly. I'm like, dude, you got to. I remember I listened to the podcast 3:00 in the morning driving to the city to go work on Blacklist. So I kind of am like, this shit better be on point. And it's like, the sound's cutting out and Troy sounds like garbage. I'm like, what is going on, guys? Come on. There were a few times. Some of my favorite podcast memories is when you mispronounce Mike Caracciolo's name. And
every time, every single time.
I went to Video Village that morning, and I'm like, so listen, man, you're on the podcast. He goes, what podcast? I'm like, so I basically told everybody on the show there is a Blacklist podcast.
Yeah.
And I listened to it. And I played it a couple times in the room, especially when we got to like the big finales. And I'm like, see, this is what I'm talking about. These guys know, and this is how the story's playing out. And they would listen to it and be like, holy shit. I never even realized that. So I go to Caracciolo one morning. Actually, we all called him Caracci because Caracciolo is too many syllables, apparently.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And I'm like, dude, you know you're on a podcast? And he's like, no. So I play it for him. And you said something like, among the fact of Caracciolo or something like that. And they had a good laugh about it. And we called him that all day. Caracciolo.
I'm glad I could help.
Yeah. So
I'm famous on the other part, the Hollywood Outsider. I'm famous for mispronouncing names. I don't do the diligence.
Cool, no, but I like it. I like that you mispronounce it because you're an outsider. So
that's right. That's right. I don't know.
It works.
We got it right for the finale. That's all that matters.
Yeah, after I texted you guys a number of times, I'm like, guys, it's Caraccio. And then like Christine Gee, you would call her something like that, or all these other names. It was funny. I wish I could remember the podcast, but there was one where I just bust out laughing. And I'll never forget. I forgot what it was about. I forgot. It was 4 a.m, but I'm driving and somebody said something super funny and I just lost my shit for a good 5 minutes. And I need to go back. I have to listen to the entire podcast again to find it.
I want to know. We got to know which one it is because I'm betting
I do too now. I do remember having a good laugh at it. And I just can't remember what it was.
Troy gets the mother theory. I get jokes. All right,
yeah.
That's what I've got.
I can remember though. My least favorite podcasts are the ones where one of you were missing and you had like a guest on. Those I always found and the guests are fine and all, but there's no tete-a-tete. It's more like Troy's like, okay, I think that this is Katerina Stove, and the other guy's like, yeah, you're sure right, Troy. Whatever you say, pal. And it's sort of like, well, this is fucking boring, I needed a back and forth, and that's one of the reasons why I feel your podcast,
should have been on this side of recording the 25-minute solo episode where I had a conversation with myself.
Oh,
I'm so trying to do that one.
So dumb. Why did he need to do? He only did that. That was an ego. He's like, I'm not missing a single episode. I can't do it.
Aaron,
no way.
I imagine how the phone call went. Aaron, the fans need the podcast. I gotta do it. And I remember that the 25-minute one. I was listening to it and. I listened to it, and I was like, okay, fine.
Wasn't bad.
I still had another hour drive to go, so I'm like, well, shit. This is...
That's fine. But, when I offered to do it, because there was one where Troy didn't think he was going to be able to do it, I'm like, I'll do a solo one, because I'll make jokes. I'll make fun of everything. I don't care.
Right.
And he's like, no, you can't do that. Because he can't bear to not be on an episode.
You don't know how to operate the StreamYard, and it's going to get
so complicated. I only do like 3 or 4 other podcasts. What I couldn't possibly handle this on my own.
Yeah, I really enjoyed listening to the show. It's definitely the cliff notes for the show. Like if you watch the show, you have to listen to the podcast to get the full scope of it. Because if I hadn't discovered your show, I probably wouldn't have known half the things that were happening. I would have taken them at face value and not looked deeper into it. And then it would have become a job more than anything. Like I enjoyed the show and I watch it, but I only watched the episode once or twice at the most. Like I have all the DVDs, but how many times do I have to watch the show? Because it's like I was there, so now I have the collection on DVD. And 10 years down the line, I could pop them in and be like, I remember that day. All right. It's like my life is documented for 10 years.
That's pretty cool.
That's what the show is to me. It's not so much the characters and the storyline, because I read all that shit. I helped make that happen. It's remembering where I was standing that day. We shot that scene behind this thing, or I was standing over there, or this happened, or that's what I look forward to.
What's the total number? I mean, just roughly of the crew, just to give people an idea how many people actually work on the show to bring it to.
Oh, well, there's a shooting crew. There's a post-production crew. There's the LA crew. But as far as a shooting crew on set every day, you're probably looking at, not including background actors, you're probably looking at about $150.
150?
Yeah.
Wow.
My makeup department alone was anywhere from 3 to 7 people. And then the hair department, same, 3 to 7 people. So that's already 14 people. Then you got the grips, easily 30, 35 people. Electric, another 20. Catering, you had 20 there. Or no, I'm sorry, you had about 10 there. And then it goes on from there. You know, like the sound guys, there was only 3 sound guys, or like there was 15 camera guys. It all adds up really fast. Then you had the Teamsters who drive the trucks, and you have the medic, and you have craft service, and you've been there.
Yeah, I've been there.
You were there for the 100th, right?
Yes, absolutely. I just want to give people a perspective.
It wasn't exactly an empty room that day.
No, it was absolutely like stacked.
The floor
fact that we fit everybody in that war room too.
It was really cool. Yeah, it was really cool to see the picture being taken and all that stuff. And
so there's a good. I would say easily on any given day, minimum 150. You know, and then it grew from there. Now, when we went to Spain, they only brought, I think it was about maybe 15, 20 of us, like including Diego and James. It was mostly the heads of the departments, but only certain departments like myself, hair, costumes for the actors, and then our AD, Adam Weisinger, and then like the other crew, like the grips, electric, sound. We hired those guys in Spain, so we didn't bring like those crew guys. Sure. You know, it was mainly the key players who contributed to the show's look per se. You know. And obviously, Diego wasn't going to just have anybody do his makeup or anything.
Or his hair.
Or his hair.
Yeah, it's very important.
Yeah.
That hair is fantastic. Whatever the hair product is, he needs to advertise it.
Even in Spain, and we were basically what you would call like almost a low budget at that point. There had to be at least 50 people there. You know, we had a full-blown Spanish crew, and we had some of the best European crew I've ever seen. These guys had worked on Game of Thrones. These guys had worked on all the Guillermo del Toro movies. Like, they were no slouches. It wasn't like low budget, like, oh my God, the big Hollywood people are here. They were like, okay, here's what you want to shoot. Here's how we're going to do it, and we're going to do it fast. We were shooting 8-hour days. Bang, bang, bang.
That's really cool.
And spending the next 8 hours, you know, enjoying Madrid.
It's a beautiful place.
It was wonderful.
That's how work trips have to go. You can't just sit in the hotel room the whole time.
No.
No. I barely saw my hotel room.
Yeah.
All right, Troy. Top. You go through. You or me? Who wants to go through the list first? I don't want to run around with this. Okay.
Yeah. Just go through them all.
Okay. This is my top podcast related memories from doing this for 9 years. Troy did it 10, which is why you can't miss an episode, and he's the only one that can do it.
Oh, that's right. You joined season 2.
Season 2 when it got good. Yeah. Just kidding. Sorry. That was mean. All right. So first, like building a friendship with people here, like Anthony.
Are we friends?
I think so. I mean, we're Facebook friends. Now I question it. Yeah.
I didn't get to go on that cruise, so I guess...
You were invited. I put it on. All my Facebook friends were invited. If you didn't want to come, that's on you. I invited everybody on Facebook.
He didn't come to New York and ask you to go to lunch. I
don't know. I was in Milwaukee, and I couldn't even hook up with you guys, so...
We were going to... Like, next time, seriously, I would drive to Milwaukee, so yes, we're friends, because I wouldn't... Ask Troy. I do not do that for anybody.
All right.
I just don't.
I grew up there, and I wouldn't drive to Milwaukee.
Yeah. And still friends with John. I know some people are like, well, you don't know. Yeah, I know John. I talked to him about the finale. So, I mean, yeah, we still keep in contact. Very good people in an industry that I would say, Pepe, you don't have to because you work there. But it can be hard to find people that don't have massive egos in Hollywood. There's a lot of that floating around. Based on the interviews I've done with, actors always keep me waiting whenever I'm interviewing. I'm like, it's always because, I got to eat M&Ms.
Well, it's a power play.
It is.
It's a power play. Yeah. If you, it's the same thing as if I get a text for a job, I don't answer it right away. You give him like a half hour because you don't want to look like the guy like, oh my God, I got a text. I got to get back to this guy right now. I'm going to lose this job. You got to have a little bit of a atmosphere about you. I wouldn't call it an ego. It's an atmosphere. You have to, if you want to, we're all car salesmen in a sense. So it's like, if I'm trying to get a job, if I come at them saying, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I'm ready to do this job. I will do it for whatever you're ready to give me. They're going to just take it.
Here's where I will disagree from my perspective. Okay. Just because interviewing a lot of actors over the years and entertainment people, Blacklist has had the least amount of ego of any group that I've encountered, and a lot
I
of
believe
that.
it.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, I will interview them, and they accept zero criticism. They're very resistant to any real criticism. Everything they do is wonderful and stuff like that. Nobody in the Blacklist has been like that. When I've had real criticism with you, John created the show. I mean, he could easily tell me to go off. Never did that. He was just like, all right, let me hear you out. And didn't always agree, but he's like, okay, I see where you're coming from, or something, respectful. And that just doesn't happen very often. Megan approached us to come on the show. That was pretty wild, and just doesn't happen, where the lead approaches a small podcast, an independent podcast, and says, hey, I want to come on your show just because I appreciate you guys. Stuff like that. So
this is an award-winning podcast.
It is now. Yeah.
Don't demean it.
Yeah, it's an award-winning podcast.
Yeah.
That's my other. I'm sorry.
We were at the writers' room the day before we won the award, so that was just extra special. That was we got to see everybody and then represent the next day on stage. It was kind of cool.
And I mean,
did you actually have the award on you? Like when you
not
were
at the time when we saw.
Hey, John, look at this.
No.
You didn't get an Emmy.
But just for example, they invited us to the set for the 100th episode, which was very, very cool all around, right?
Right.
But when we got there, I think there were only 6 outlets that were invited to that. And it's like Hollywood Reporter, Entertainment Weekly, like all the major variety, the big ones.
Yeah.
And then
Canada.
us. We don't fit. But they still did that, and that was a very cool thing. It just doesn't happen. And
did they fly you in?
No, they didn't fly us in.
They didn't put you up either or anything like that.
They didn't need to. No, it's fine. Yeah.
No, I was just curious.
We actually got a nice little bromance trip out of it, so it was all right. It was good.
No, it's like I said, that the Blacklist, you need the cliff notes for the show to really enjoy the show, and that's what you guys created. And it started out as just, I'm going to do a podcast about a show, probably last a season, who the hell knows where this is going. And it became a lifestyle. We're wearing the freaking t-shirts, for Christ's sake.
I love these shirts.
It's like, so I think what you guys really created, and not many shows have that anymore, like these bookended things where you can listen to the podcast. And this I've tried other Blacklist podcasts. I'll be honest. I tried, and
don't name them. No,
I won't. But they fail miserably. And I couldn't even name them if I tried. I don't remember them. But I remember listening to them like, no, this is not what the show's about at all. They're missing it. And you guys got the show from the jump. And the fact that what excited me the most, this is one of my favorite memories of the podcast, is the fact that you guys actually answered my email. And I'm thinking it's a podcast. What do they want to know about me? What am I going to do? I'm just going to hit them up. I'm like, hey guys, I'm a big fan of the show. I work on the show. And you answered me back, and it butted into this relationship. And I'm like, that's amazing. Because, we all come from a generation where podcasts were not a thing. So it's like I'm on the radio,
You're on the radio. Yeah.
How many times do you remember calling on the radio stations for a contest and you couldn't get through because you get a busy signal over and over and over? And you finally get on the radio and you're like, holy shit, what do I say? So I think the fact that you guys let me on the show, that's my favorite memory. 100%.
That's kind of cool.
It's a great interview too.
Oh God, I can't even listen to it now. I have it on my favorite on the Blacklist app. I have it favorited, so I check it out, and I'm like, oh God, I sound like such a douche. It's like,
no, you don't.
Do it.
No,
I know. Thank you. I appreciate that. I have a hard time listening to myself or watching myself on TV, and I've been on TV more than I care to mention, especially that sci-fi show Face Off. I can't even watch that anymore. So it's like, I just, it's a different Anthony,
It's I don't like listening to Troy, really. I mean, I can listen to myself all day, but it's when his voice chimes in, I just struggle. Can't do it. All right, let me finish my top
sure,
ones
sorry,
here. No, it's all right. Winning the podcast award, you talked about that. We won. For context, we went to, and this is tied into another favorite memory, was touring the writers' room. We were invited to the writers' room and toured the Paramount lot in LA, which was really cool. Got to meet the writers and actually see where the sausage is made, as you said. And they did have a board where they tried to keep track of all the mythology. They took a bunch of stuff down that was coming up, though. They made sure,
of course,
so we couldn't see any inside secrets. And then the next day? It was the next day we won the award, right?
Yep.
So we went and we were nominated against some of the biggest podcasts out there, honestly. And these are our peers. It isn't like we're up for podcast awards right now. And don't get me wrong, I love that one too, because that's fan generated. But this was our peers, industry peers, kind of like the Emmys for podcast awards. Mm-hmm. And we thought for sure, like, we're not going to win, but hey, it's cool to be nominated. It's an honor to be nominated. You know?
It's an honor to be nominated.
Yep.
I don't need an Emmy. I just wanted the nomination.
Yeah, I just want to be invited to the ceremony. It was a great ceremony. It was very cool. And then we won, and I didn't thank my mom, and I love you, Mom. And I still, like, I literally still feel bad about that.
You didn't thank your mom?
No, I was shell shocked. I never expected to win, and we got up there, and there's a video of it floating around somewhere, and I was so, and I'm not, you know, you've talked to me. I'm not somebody to get shy, but yeah. I didn't know what to say. Troy did most of the talking,
which is funny because my recollection of it was like, we're never going to win. So I handed my phone to my buddy next to me to just record in case there was a reason why we ended up getting called, and because then I wanted us to get recorded because we were up on stage. Mm-hmm. And as we were walking down the aisle, I went, shit, the speech is on the phone.
That's great.
Did you write a speech?
I wrote a speech.
I didn't write anything.
Like, this is like this is a one and only time I'm ever going to be able to win like an Emmy or an Oscar. Like, of course I'm going to write a speech. We got to thank John, and we got to thank Sony and NBC and all the people that you're supposed to do in the speech and whatever. And I totally forgot to thank my mom, which I think the irony of that whole thing is that Spader's playing Katarina, who is Liz's mom, and we forgot to thank our moms.
Okay, that's a weird irony. That's okay, but that's not where I would go at all.
See, it's these kind of things that I love about the show. Troy will say something completely off cuff, and it's just like Aaron's like, "What is wrong with you?
What is wrong with you?"
Who says things like that?
But it's the brilliance of the show. You know, that's what I love about it.
Yeah. Other moments.
That's what we'll call it. Brilliance.
Brilliance.
Yeah. Or Troy's just weird. Being invited to LA and to take part in the DVD extras where we kind of like each shared theories, and Troy, of course, got to go on the record about the mom theory.
Now, which DVD is this? Because I think
it's
actually on season 6.
It's on season 6.
I'm gonna pop that in later.
Yeah, it's actually pretty fun. It was pretty cool because we got invited in, and they take you into a room and do this whole interview, and you know, we're sharing theories, and I think it wasn't until that moment I realized, God, we sound like idiots because we're here reciting a theory of a TV show, and one of these theories is probably going to be right. We didn't know which one. We didn't know it would be the most outlandish one. But I kind of had the gist that this is probably why you were invited, is because of this outlandish one, and that was actually the one.
The fact that you guys saw right through it and figured it all out.
Troy saw right through it. I didn't until later, so I'm not going to take credit for that. I take credit for asking Daniel Knopf the question that got it rolling, and that's it. But I didn't.
I remember the podcast that I did with you. You asked me that question about Red Arena, and I was all for it. I completely bought into Troy's theory, and you know, it held water. You know, more than any other theory, because what else could it be? Never saw the bull coming, but, you know.
Dude, neither did Red.
Yeah.
I called pregnant males with red and blue balloons and pills on a nightstand, and I can't call a freaking bull.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, see, this is the problem with Troy being right. Like, his ego can't contain, his head can't contain this.
His brilliance.
My atmosphere.
Don't feed it. Don't stoke it.
Brilliance.
Don't feed it. But that will lead me to my other favorite. One of my other favorite. I've got like 10, so I'm going through them. It is Heinrich's Hospital. I'm going to let Troy speak to that because I know it's more important to him, obviously.
Oh, right, the hospital,
Heinrich Psychiatric Center in Concord.
Yeah, Amir references that Heinrich's Psychiatric Hospital, referencing Troy Heinrich in the show, like so meta, and it was just a highlight because I know how it made Troy feel. I mean, sure, I was a little bummed I never got mentioned, but whatever. It was very, very cool to see Troy acknowledged in that way. And I feel like it was a nod to, you nailed this. Good for you. You got it. And without actually saying it outright. And I thought that was very, very, very cool of them. And I know that was John's doing. So that was very exciting for us. It was very cool. And I was happy for him because even though his ego is like, cannot be contained, it was still a great moment for the podcast.
Right.
And Troy. C2E2 moderating those panels. We did the Blacklist, which also led to Cobra Kai, which is a personal highlight of mine. Just moderating the Cobra Kai panel and being able to hang out with Ralph Macchio and Billy Zabka. And because of doing that, because of the Blacklist, which led to that, which also meant we got to have, hang out with Harry Lennox. I had a wonderful conversation with him about Zack Snyder's movies, which is also one of those private conversations I'm not going to share, but I'm just glad we're on the same page.
I've had those conversations too with him. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. He's very straight, very candid.
Harry is a genius.
He's a great guy.
Genius.
Wonderful
Absolutely.
guy. And the Cobra Kai moment, the reason why the Cobra Kai moment was so special to me is not just moderating the panel. It was amazing to do that because my daughter was in attendance. My wife was in attendance. You were in attendance, Troy. It was just a really cool moment for me. And I wore complete karate gi the whole time I did it. It looked like an idiot, but it's on YouTube. You can find it. It's pretty fun. But I got to hang out with those guys, and Ralph Macchio and Billy Zabka were wonderful guys. But the week before, I was at South by Southwest, and because I was moderating the panel, they invited me to a private Cobra Kai event, and I got to hang out with them like for reals for a couple hours, which I got drunk with Martin Cove, so that was great. So that led to that. Dinner with Amir, Susan, John, and John's amazing wife, Kathy, with Troy. I won't share any of that conversation, but it was an absolutely wonderful time. I actually had very, very little to do with Blacklist. It was just a really wonderful memory of mine. The live podcasts after the big episodes, having that direct interaction with fans, I think that was very, very cool. And then a couple other final ones. Interviews with John Bokenkamp, Megan Boone, James Spader, Anthony Pape, Court, Hasham, Amir, Harry Lennox, Daniel Knopf, who I should mention is trying to use indie resources for a new project of his, so you can help support Daniel Knopf if you want to. Gingerland.substack.com. I just want to throw that shout out. But speaking with all those people about a show we love, and especially how candid John would be, allowing us, in particular me, to ask absolutely anything I wanted, which led to us getting that huge scoop on the season 4 renewal that every publication ran with and exploded our podcast in a huge way. That was exciting. And Megan Boone coming on because she appreciated that we wouldn't talk about her pregnancy. That was a highlight as well. And I thought that was a very cool moment for us. A couple other ones. There's so many fun memories. Amir recorded a message from my wife that just because I told him what a huge fan she was, and it made her month. I mean, she still has it. She still listens to it every now and again, and it's kind of creepy, to be honest with you. But then visiting the set, meeting all of you guys, meeting Andrew McCarthy, because Megan Boone took us behind to watch them film a scene, and then Andrew McCarthy comes over and says hi. That was wild. And
what was the scene? Do you remember?
It was the one where she's pulling the giant dude from the coffee table and trying to pick him up and roll him over.
Happy.
Yes, happy.
Yeah. It was cool. And you know what was sad about that is she said we could stay there as long as we wanted, but I think we started feeling bad that we were there for so long. And we eventually just said, we should probably go. I don't know.
Right. I remember you guys were standing right behind Village, and I introduced you to Court Hessler. I remember that.
Yeah.
But happy because he had the glass in his neck, and it was basically a whole giveaway thing. Yeah, this is a spoiler, and you guys haven't even seen the episodes preceding it, so
it was cool.
Right?
You knew he was done for.
Yeah, but we never gave any secrets away. We've done a lot of stuff behind the scenes. We've never given any of it away.
Oh,
never.
Yeah. There's so many. One of the rules I always had about the show is that because my wife watched the show, is that I would not tell her a single thing about the show because she watched it. And the first thing that blew her mind that she couldn't believe I kept a secret for so long was the whole Andrew McCarthy as a pilot thing.
That was wonderful. What a great moment. What a great moment.
So I'll tell you this story, and I don't know. Well, I'm going to just tell you the story, and then I'll explain it from there. So I'm a fan of the show. I'm reading the script, and they talk about Edward, the pilot, and they actually introduce him, and you see him there in the parachute and everything landing. And I'm like, oh, my God, there's the pilot. Who are they going to get for the pilot? So me and the visual effects guy, he does all the green screen stuff on the show. we're talking about it, and like, they need to do this as a cameo. They need to get someone big, right? And he starts throwing out names. I throw out names. And as a joke, he goes to me, he goes, hey, you should go see if Andrew McCarthy would do it. And immediately the light bulb went off my head. I'm like, holy shit. That is a brilliant idea. I'm going to go ask him right now. He's like, no. I was just kidding. I'm like, no, I'm going up to him. Andrew McCarthy is sitting right there, not 10 feet from us. So I go over to Andrew. I'm like, Andrew. And he's like, Anthony, what can I do you for? I'm like, listen, how would you feel about playing Edward the pilot on the show? And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, so Reddington has a plane and a pilot. We've never seen him ever since day one. They've always referenced him, but they've never actually seen it. And we've never actually heard him either. And Andrew McCarthy's like, well, I want $100,000. I'm like, all right, it's done. You got it. It's yours. And he's like, you're gonna agent this for me? You're gonna broker this? I'm like, I'm on it. And he thought I was kidding, and that was it. I then went to Laura Benson, our producer, and I went to the ADs who were doing the episode, and I said, guys, how fucking awesome would it be if Andrew McCarthy plays the pilot? And they were like, they didn't say no, but they thought it was a pretty cool idea. Then I went to James's makeup artist, because to see James, you can't just go up to James's room and knock on his door. You have to kind of like ask to see the king, in a sense. You have to go to the secretary and go to the people and then go up to see James.
Sure.
So I said, listen, I'm not going to be able to talk to James right now, but is there any way you could talk to James and tell him what I'm thinking and see if this could work out? And she went upstairs, told James, and said, there's no way that's happening. I'm like, all right, fine. It was a shot in the dark. A day later, I see Andrew McCarthy and James Spader talking in the hallway, candidly. And then another day goes by, and then McCarthy comes up to me and goes, so you made it happen. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, I'm going to play the pilot. I'm like, what? He goes, but they want me for 2 days. I'm like, why? He goes, so they got an exterior shot, and then they got the interior shot in the car, and they're shot in 2 separate days. And Andrew McCarthy was shooting. It was the episode right before it. I think it was 10/18. Andrew McCarthy shooting, then Christine Moore shot 19, or no, it was 19 and 20, something like that. So McCarthy obviously was done with his episode, but he was free now to act in the episode.
Oh.
So they I don't know if I did not make the final decision. Obviously, I'm just the makeup guy.
I'm sure Spader made the final decision.
I'm sure he did, but I was like, I just glad that I was helped to. The seed was germinated. I can't take full credit for it because Steven, the VFX guy, mentioned McCarthy because he was sitting right there. But, I just ran with it, and I thought it was such a good idea because the fans would go apeshit for it.
And you were right.
Did.
Yeah.
And they did. So my wife is sitting there. We're watching the show, and
you're watching her the whole time, just waiting.
I'm just sitting there all quiet, and I'm just like, and I already talked to you guys, and I confirmed that this was McCarthy's episode. And my wife, she's like, get the fuck out. What? And there's McCarthy in full close-up, and he gets in the car, he says his line, and that's it. And she's like, how did you keep this from me? I'm like, we knew about this way back in, maybe April. March, April, we were making those moves. She's like, how did you keep this from me? I'm like, this was a secret. There was no way I was going to let go. I had to hold that one in because I was so excited to see it happen, and I'd like to think that, I had something to do with that. Just like the Wu Jing thing, the war with Wu Jing. I'd like to think that as a fan and as an employee of the show that I got to put in my 2 cents and actually germinate into something.
I wish they would have had more of the Blacklisters, but hey, we got the cameo.
I really wanted that war. I really wanted that war, but it wasn't meant to be. It was too late in the game for that. If we had done that in season 6, then boom, we could have gone all the way out. But we spent more time dealing with who's your daddy, who's your mommy, than Blacklisters. So it kind of got pushed to the side.
Makes sense.
And the thing is with the Wu Jing stuff is I told at the Boken camp. So I don't know. It got to Eisendrath at some point and then it came into something. But I think plus COVID was a big problem in season 10. We had actors dropping out left and right because of COVID. We had a Blacklister. I can't remember his name.
Even still in season 10.
Oh yeah, we were
down with
we were still getting COVIDs.
Yeah.
We would get tested every other day or every single day. We were all masked up, but then like we'd have an actor come in to play the Blacklist, and we'd shoot a day with him. Next day he popped, and we call it you popped or you popped for COVID, and we'd have to completely reshoot the Blacklist, or like we'd lose an actor. Like we would lose key players, you know. Even some of the core cast would drop out because of, you know, COVID. So it was hard to shoot it all together and still stay on schedule. Yeah.
Well, you guys made it. Well, that's my last. I have one more memory, but I'll save that until Troy's done.
All right. Mine very similar to Aaron's. I think probably the best one though was getting the call from TV Talk, which was the network that hosted the show prior to us, saying like, "Hey, do you want to do a TV podcast?" And I looked at the list and I was like, Blacklist was available and I was going to watch it anyway. So I'm like, sure, why not get paid to watch TV? This is awesome. And we picked up Blacklist and we did the preview episode for the show. And I think that's where like some of the credit goes to the either not the mother theory specifically, but the imposter theory that we started out with, because we were reading this article from a guy in Nebraska who basically interviewed John, and John talked about his writing process and how he writes for strong female characters and how Kathy is his muse and he bounces stuff off of him because he doesn't have a writing partner. You know, so like that nugget of strong female character was like, oh, well, he's writing the show for Liz. That makes sense. Right. And then, you know, we go on through the TV Talk years, and then later it obviously goes.
1 year.
Well, the 1 year for TV Talk, and then getting into mid-season 2, and we're finally like, oh, Eisendrath, Russia, Alias, Mom's Not Dead. Oh, he's the mom. You know, so it's actually John writing for Katerina Rostova, not writing for Liz. And I thought that nugget was like the thing that germinated the idea. And I thought that was really cool. That if we hadn't had TV Talk and we hadn't had that newspaper article, that we wouldn't have ever gotten to where we got to with this show. I love the fans. The fans were awesome. We did in season 4, there were just people like vehemently destroying each other on the internet over the fan theory camps. And we had 2 fan roundtables on this podcast where we hosted the Daddygate people, the Lissington people, the imposter theory people.
Oh yeah, remember back in the day when people thought that Red and Liz were a couple, and honestly, I think NBC and Bokenkamp and Eisendrath too, they kind of fed those theories because they couldn't really say anything because they don't want to lose any steam, and so they let those play. And I'm just like, I don't know about that. That just feels weird, and now it feels really weird looking back in hindsight. But you know, what are you gonna do?
And those 3 camps are what got me to come and interview John and John for the season 4 DVD or whatever, the behind the scenes special. And just the fans, I think, were the main reason why I continued to keep doing the podcast, because I loved just like hearing people's thoughts and comments, and you know, meeting people like Wendy Davies and Get a Cup of Tea and Rory and Tori doing like the pre-show podcast that they did for a while. But then we did the clamor thing in season 2 where Rory and Bill made all the clips of us and our weird things that we said, and we got to play those as I think it was episode 27 of the Blacklist Exposed. That was a lot of fun.
I gotta go back and listen to that one.
And then I remember clear as day sitting here watching the show. I think it was the season 3 premiere. We had just interviewed Daniel Knopf and everything, and we're literally tweeting with the fans on Twitter, and I get a ping from somebody and they're like, "Hey, Troy, see that John like tweeted you guys?" And I was like, "What?" And so I looked over and like, sure enough, there's John Bokenkamp tweeting at Blacklist Exposed. He's like, "Hey, you had one of my writers on. Where was my invite?" And I was like,
I remember that.
Holy crap. Like the dude just like invited himself on the show. And so that got to be the start of the John Bokenkamp relationship. And then the very first interview we did with him, he kind of Aaron's the master question asker. Like we're like, don't ask that question. And Aaron just, no, I'm going to go ask that question. And he asked if season 4 was renewed, and John told us season 4 was renewed. And then like all the trades picked it up, and it was like, oh shit, what did we just do? We like,
oh right, you guys leaked it, right? That was the whole thing.
We didn't leak it. I just asked the question, and he answered it before he was supposed to answer it. I think.
Right, yeah. I remember that.
And then like it just the
because I remember going into work and then saying like, guys, I think we have another season coming. Like, what are you? John Bokenkamp was on a podcast and he was talking about the Blacklist, and we got picked up. And they're like, bullshit. And next thing you know, it blew up. I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember Troy going, "We can't ask him that." I'm like, "The hell you can? I can ask him. He can just not answer it."
And then he answered it, and then it was like the next day it was like, shit, we're on the blacklist. We're never going to work in Hollywood again.
Yeah, I never got to ask any more renewal questions after that, by the way. So
You know about the cancellation thing when we found out we were canceled? You know that story?
For season 10?
Yeah.
which story, I guess?
So we were shooting the scene where Red's in Cuba meeting with that other mafia guy, and he sees Ouija for the first time. And Sia's with him and all that. So we're shooting, it's nighttime, we're in Manhattan, and all of a sudden my Instagram starts blowing up, and there's that picture, the Reddington poster, the final season. It comes out saying like the finale, series finale, and immediately
because you guys are shooting the season before the promotion of the season is about to start.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So we are sitting there wondering if we're going to get a season 11. And we're like, yeah, probably. I mean, this show can go on forever. Honestly, it's like at this point, who knows? Who cares? They're just going to keep shooting. I get texts from like the costume designer, and then I get texts from like, other makeup artists, and like, you guys got canceled. I'm like, holy cow. So I look at the photo. All of a sudden I see everybody it starts going around the crew. Everybody knows right in the middle of the shot. We found out. And then we had found out, and I found this, I believe, through Ali Blacklist or one of the other forums, where NBC or someone there had sent out that photo and then pulled it like a minute and a half later. And it became, unfortunately, when you put something on the internet, it's out. It's gone. You might as well
can't stop it.
Yeah, it was up at the time I grabbed it, and then by the time I went to go back, it was already gone.
It was already gone, but NBC kind of screwed up. And it was and I'm no stranger to saying like NBC has, the promotions department of NBC per se
got ahead of themselves.
Has done that before, where we shot Kaplan in the face, and then coming next week, there's Kaplan running around. It's like, guys, keep a secret for 10 seconds. How can you? I mean, you can't sell it to us as like this big cliffhanger and then show you what's on the edge of the cliff. It's like, no. It ruins it. So it was
by the way, Motto, one of my favorite episodes. When Kaplan gets shot, that was legitimately one of the biggest surprises of the whole series.
When we shot Susan?
It
was such a great scene. She was so awesome. Man, there was no stunt double. She was on that rock on the river with her face all blood. I put that poor woman through hell and back, which is why I have such an affinity for her, because I glued half her hair to her face with blood, prosthetic cheek open, dangling, and all this jazz. And she's crawling on rocks and shit. It's like in a real river. It's no joke. She was great.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No. But it's one of those things where it's like, they can't keep a secret for 10 seconds. And it's almost fitting that, like our producer had to basically tell everybody, I'm really sorry. This is not how this was supposed to go down. I heard, when I spoke to Sony, we have this woman there, I won't mention her name, but she's a part of the publicity department. I think you guys know her. Mm-hmm. She says, "Oh my God!" As soon as I found out, I mean, heads were rolling, because that's not how you do it. You don't just put it on the internet first before the cast and crew even know. The only people that knew, honestly, were probably James and our producer, but the actors didn't know. Diego didn't know. I didn't know. We found out on fucking Instagram. You know what I mean?
That's too bad.
It's fitting though. That's how our promotions have been the entire run of the show. No secrets.
All right, Troy, finish your list.
I think the other fun one was the Christmas special we did in season 5. It's an interview with John Buckenkamp, and he gave us a Christmas present where everybody was talking about what was supposed to be this war with the cabal and all this stuff. And John actually went to Lucas Ryder's desk, and Lucas actually had the whole thing written out. And then he gave us a copy of that so we could actually read it on the podcast for everybody.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
I totally forgot about that.
I thought that was really cool. I love the watch parties that we did in season 7.
Yeah, that's fun.
For those that don't know, in John's hometown in Nebraska, he has a theater, and they would show the episode to the hometown locals a day or so before the actual episode aired, and then would have conversation about it with John, sometimes on Present, sometimes on WebEx. Couldn't do that during COVID, so I called John, and I was just like, hey, why don't we just do that for everybody and do these like live watch parties. And we did that for the last, I think it was 4 or 5 of season 7. That was really great. And just having a nice conversation, because that was when we had Glenn. That was the Touch a Truck episode. So to have
people
Clark Middleton
just popped into the podcast, like just John Bokenkamp dropped in, Hisham dropped in, Amir dropped in. It was just, I think you might have dropped in it. Did you drop in on those?
No.
Oh, okay, it was just the cats. But that was wild.
Kevin Wiseman dropped in one time, and he only barely played like a doctor in one episode or 2 episodes. That was cool. And then I think off the backside of that is just being with Glenn for that final episode. I thought was really cool, and then having him pass away, and like just those moments were just such a cool thing. Such a cool thing.
Clark was so cool, man. We had a shrine to him in the makeup room. We had a picture of him with one of those like electric candles that were burning, and we just had it there for years. It was such a heavy loss in so many ways, because what he was, you guys know him.
Clark Middleton. Yep.
Yeah, Clark Middleton. He's just such an energy that I've never met anyone like him, and he was missed. He was sorely missed.
He was very nice, very sweet guy. From what I mean, we only met him briefly, but
yeah. Well, it gets to him at C2E2, yeah, and then the watch party, yeah. So twice we got to meet him on set too, because he was on set that day.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think the biggest one was season 4 when Lulu McClellan passed away.
Oh,
she was
that was so cool.
Huge fan of Spaders, and I just, Aaron was like, we got to do something, so I pinged John, and I was just like, hey, like cast photo, something from John, just can you sign something, send it to the family, because she was just such a big fan, and she didn't get to see how the show ended, kind of like Fanboys, right, when they break into the
Star Wars movie,
Star Wars thing, yeah. And then we're just didn't hear back or anything from anybody, right? I'm sure they're going to do something. And then when we're watching 410, I think it was, when right before Dembe goes on the run, because they thought Dembe was one that poisoned Red, and then Red's poisoned, and then the lady finds Red in her house, and she's like, what's your name? And she says Lulu McClellan. It was like, oh my god, like that's yeah. How do you top that?
Heinrich's Hospital. That's how you top it.
Aaron, I had to look it up, but if you look at the episode Alter Ego, there's a character there named Timothy Peterson. So there you go.
Yeah, was that named after me?
Sure.
Oh, that was the Rich Fancy Boy episode, right?
Yeah. I remember Troy said that's your reference right there, and I'm like, is it though? I mean,
Tim Peterson.
Maybe. It might have been. Which episode was it? Alter Ego?
Alter Ego.
I'm
looking at the wiki. I typed in Peterson just to see. It was season 6.
Yeah, it might have been. Yeah, maybe it was. I don't know. But I'll take it as it were. I've never asked John because I don't have that kind of ego. But I was just happy Lulu got her. That was a really cool shout out.
I actually got a shout out too, in a weird way, because it's no secret, I'm an avid video game nerd in a sense.
Yeah, pinball,
arcade games, consoles, everything, and a majority of my wardrobe is printed T-shirts of some video game nature or something like that. And during our production meetings, we had an episode where we had these D&D guys playing cards, and they have them do a drone strike. I don't know if you remember that.
I remember that.
So there's this big guy, who's doing a drone strike and like that. And we're in the production meeting, and we're talking, because it was a hair, makeup, wardrobe meeting. And the costume designer says, well, so this guy, the guy, the nerd and everything like that, can't we just dress him like Pepe? And they laughed. And I said, and I'm looking at my flannel and my Asteroids T-shirt, and I'm just like, shit. I've been labeled. And they did it.
Cool.
They totally did it.
That's cool.
They dressed him as me.
That's really cool.
That's as far as I got.
Hey man, that's impressive. That's impressive. It's always fun.
Yeah.
Nah, but like Aaron, like I had, being that I was a mass comm major, we heard about like 100
I was wondering
episodes.
how long it would take before you mentioned that you were, a radio major. Like I just didn't know how long it would take, because it always has to come up at some point randomly.
Because it was
it's like talking to people that went to Harvard.
You majored in radio?
I majored in radio. Yeah.
Is that a thing?
I was actually on the air doing on the air morning show host for 6 years.
What college was this?
Winona State up in Minnesota.
I didn't know that was a thing. You could major in radio.
I didn't know Winona was.
I thought you were just majoring like communications.
Well, it's like it's mass comm with an emphasis in broadcasting. So it's TV and radio, yeah. And and one of my
and he still hasn't learned how to not cut people off.
Totally.
No.
He's got a whole degree in it.
But the big thing there was that we were watching all the shows at the time, and they get to like getting to 100 episodes was a big thing, and they would have the cake cutting ceremony and going to the cake. And I was like, man, bucket list item would be to be on the set at 100th episode and be able to cut the cake, and then actually getting to do that with this podcast, I thought was just like, yeah, it's amazing.
I have a question for you guys. Is this the first show that you've ever been this involved in? As far as television shows, I don't know what
podcast
you guys,
or like just podcasts,
or both in a sense, because like you've met creators, you've met stars, you've gotten to be on sets, and like that. Has there been any other show in your history, or any other film that you've actually gotten this involved with?
Troy, I'll let you go first. I have, but
so yeah. The long story short, I started my podcasting journey doing Under the Dome.
The Stephen King one.
The Stephen King one, Under the Dome Radio.
That show sucked.
Great book, terrible show.
Terrible show. Yeah.
One of the actors, in the way that you do this, is that you call the B or C team, right? You don't call Spader, you call Dembe, right? You call Hisham. So we called the Hisham of the show, which was this guy named Kevin Sizemore. Really great Twitter thing. I just tweeted him about his Twitter header. We had a conversation, got on Skype together, became friends. Right, still friends to this day. Family loves the Blacklist. And he ended up going on to a TV show called Resurrection on ABC with people that were coming back from the dead. Okay. And so Kevin called us and said, hey, I'm on this new show, Resurrection. You guys should podcast about it. And we said, we already got plans to do that show because that's right up our alley. That's a Lost spinoff kind of thing. Right. And he's like, let me see what I can do. And we didn't hear anything for like a couple months. And then it's like, a month before we got to decide if we're going to pull the trigger and do this thing. And we get the call from like an unknown number. And I'm going up to some kind of work function in the top of the Sears Tower. So I'm not going to have a cell signal. So I go out in the lobby and I take the call, and it's ABC. And they called us up and said, hey, you guys are doing a podcast for our show. Do you want to interview the creator? And we were like, sure. Yeah. So that whole first season of Resurrection, they actually feature one member of the cast has like their story of the person that came back. And so we got to interview, we did like the instant reactions episode. And then later in the week had the interview with the actor that was the story of the week that week. And we did that for the entire first season. So that was kind of the warm up, I guess, for the Blacklist. Awesome. Yeah.
And I've, not to this degree for sure, but, I did a 24 podcast for a while and got invited to interview several of the cast, including Kiefer Sutherland. There's a cool story there. I'll tell you.
The original Red Reddington.
The original Red
Reddington. There's a cool story with that, but I will not tell you on this. But I'll be happy to tell you outside of this. Interesting dude. The only other like big one. I mean, I've interviewed a lot of guys, but I will say, Alan Richson. You know Alan Richson from Reacher. He played Reacher.
Alan what?
Richson. He played Reacher in the Prime Video.
I never saw Reacher.
See, okay, well that came out last year. And got invited to interview him, and he actually reached out to me and had me ask me to moderate another panel where he basically talked to vets, but it's not publicity or anything else. He just needed a moderator, and so invited me back to do that. That was really cool. Like honestly, it was a very, very cool moment because he wasn't trying to get publicity or anything else. He just really respected vets and kind of wanted to have a forum.
Veterans.
Yeah, veterans.
Not pet doctors. Veterans.
Not pet. Not pet. That would have been weird.
I'm like vets. Yeah. Okay, veterans. Gotcha.
So yeah, we did that. I did that, and that was pretty cool. And Cobra Kai. But outside of that, no. I mean, this is the biggest for sure. Yeah. And the coolest experience. And a lot of that, I would say, we owe to Megan and John for getting the ball rolling there, because John really opened up his heart and the show to us in many ways, and Megan as well really opened some doors too. Because I think once Megan came on, I think everybody in the cast was like, "Well, if Megan will go on, we'll go on." You know,
well, everybody but one.
Everybody,
all but one.
I tried, man. I brought it up several times.
To Diego.
to Diego because I was his makeup artist, and we would wax poetic about the show all the time about what we hated. This is so stupid. Fed what is you know what his biggest beef was, and I have to agree with him on this one.
Be careful. Be careful. You're being recorded.
He's a federal agent. You'd think he'd learn a little basic Spanish on the 8-hour flight to Madrid.
Probably. But
I don't speak. Do you know this guy? I don't speak Spanish. Hello.
Hang on. I will help Diego out here. I have been married to a woman who speaks fluent Spanish for almost 18 years, and I still haven't taken any time to understand it.
But you're not a Fed.
I'm not a Fed.
He's a husband. It's even more of his job than the Fed's job.
I'm a husband. We literally just went to Cancun, and all these people are speaking, and they're like, "Your wife is Spanish. You don't speak Spanish?" I'm like,
He's like, no.
Why not?
Because she speaks it.
I'm half Puerto Rican, and I speak very, very basic Spanish. But when I was in Madrid, damn near came fluent. I was like, holy cow, I didn't realize I knew this much Spanish.
I understand
you
it.
need to immerse yourself.
You probably understand this too. I understand it way more than I can speak it. Like I know when people are talking and what they're basically saying, but Spanish is a language that they talk so fast. It's just hard for me to keep up.
But you know what? When I was in Madrid, they said the same thing to me. He goes, you speak English very fast.
And that's probably fair.
But I'm also a New Yorker. And New Yorkers have a tendency to talk faster than a lot of like Midwestern or the Western coasts and stuff like that.
That's probably why I like New York so much.
I got that a lot in Madrid. It was like, your English is too fast. I can't understand you. But yeah, Diego, I tried to get him on the podcast, and he had a valid point. He's not the type of person to do publicity. He's not into it because he'd rather just let the acting do the talking as opposed to him going like all those behind the scenes thing. They were not a thrill. He's like, all right, I got to go do the PR stuff for this, EPKs and such.
Well, just tell him we appreciate him.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And I get it. I tried.
We watch radio.
Dude, I even told him I'll go on with you.
And
but
he still wouldn't do it.
No, because he said that most likely we'll get fired if we go on there together. we'll just talk so much shit and just be like, nah, we can't do that.
Well, hopefully you guys are still friends. I
still message him once in a while. Right now, everybody's on their hiatus, so we don't reach out as much as we used to. But maybe who knows?
We did get him at the 100th episode though, so he was on the show.
Well, there you go. There you go. So you got all the actors per se.
We did. We got everybody. Yeah, we got to talk to everybody. So
yeah,
that's great.
It was like I told Court Hessler when we wrapped the show. And everybody was hugging on the side. We were on the side of a mountain. We were all hugging and crying and everything. And it was over. And I told Court, look, man, Court has the stunt coordinator. Like, we made good television. And that's what we can honestly say. There's so much crap on TV. And nowadays, Netflix is canceling things in the season and it's over. There's no more gambling on an investment like this anymore. And I'm afraid what TV is going to become. It's going to be just reality TV and 90-Day Fiancés, and that's pretty much all we're left with. The true storytelling of, what I miss? I miss Water Cooler Mondays, where everybody in the country was watching the same show. Everybody was watching Seinfeld. Everybody was watching Friends, or did you see this show? That's what I miss.
That's why we
still
do
get little pieces of it. We have like Last of Us. I mean, that kind of like brought it back a little bit.
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, a little bit.
But even then, it's limited in the sense of like, you asked me earlier, you watching Justified. I don't even know what channel that's on, and it's like, I can't keep track of, I only have Amazon, Netflix, and
I was just going to say, what's a channel? I don't understand what channel.
I still have my Verizon Fios. I'm not getting rid of cable because I'm a diehard. I still have a landline in the house. It's like,
oh man,
I don't want to make that move into just streaming because too many options is not necessarily a good thing, especially when you want to actually. I can remember shows that I grew up watching in the 80s and 90s, and I miss those days as opposed to what's gone now. You watch a show like we were watching. I'm watching What We Do in the Shadows. I love it. A great movie, but it's a better show. And there's only a few episodes. There's no 22 episodes of that. Mm-hmm. And what did I just? Oh, Philly. We just watched. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. 6 episodes. Done. Season's over. I'm like, what the fuck, man? It's like that. How do you do that? TV, I don't know. It's a whole new beast. It's another beast now, and I'm not liking where it's going. I think Blacklist may be one of the last 22 episode runs you're going to see in a long time. I mean, what's left? The Chicago Fires and the Magnum PIs, and that's all the same shit. It's all cop shows
and drama shows.
I just peed next to him at a urinal in South by Southwest.
See, that sounds like something Troy would say.
No, that's a true story.
I would have said it if I was invited to South by Southwest, but I've never been invited to go. I have to pay my own way like a normal peasant.
Whatever. I go there as press. But I went to the men's room, and Jay Hernandez, who plays Magnum, the new Magnum, he was at the urinal because he was there for a movie. The Long Game was the movie. And he's promoting it, and he went to the bathroom at the same time, just a random coincidence.
Are we talking like side-by-side urinals here? Or
yeah,
are we talking
side by side. And so we get done, and I'm like, "Hey, man, love your work." And and I also this, I swear to God, this is what I said. We get done, I'm washing my hands. I'm like, "Hey, man, love your work, but I thought you'd be taller." And he just starts laughing.
Okay, Aaron. I'm not so sure you know this, but there is an unspoken rule that you do not talk to another man in the men's room.
We were completed our business. The business was completed.
Doesn't matter.
You got to go out the door.
Wait till you're outside, man. That is a private space. When a man has his fly open, his
fly was closed. We were washing hands.
He's washing his hands. He's still doing his personal business.
If there are 3 urinals and 2 are occupied and the one in the middle is open, you wait to go until one of the people leave. You never stand next to someone in the bathroom.
You're missing the point where I said I thought you'd be bigger, and he's laughing hysterically because he just got done peeing. That's all I'm saying.
I appreciate your enthusiasm, but yeah, it's an unspoken rule. You do not.
Yeah, he probably went back to his chair and he said, "This dickhead was at the urinal talking to me."
Accosted in the bathroom by some crazy fan. He said I was taller. I don't know. He's trying to hit on me or something. I don't know what's going on.
All right. Should we take some fan questions quick and wrap this thing up?
Yes. We got to wrap this up. I got to go.
All right. Bia said, now that the show is over, if you had the opportunity to interview James Spader about Raymond Reddington and or the show, The Blacklist, what would your first question be?
What was your favorite monologue?
That's a good question. I technically asked that question, so I already have my answer.
Okay.
What was his favorite episode?
Yeah, mine would have been probably monologue as well. Like, in which monologue did you ad-lib versus have written for you completely?
You know what would be another good question? I would have asked him something along the lines of like, what were we going to do on the show that was rejected? Mm-hmm. Like, what did you have your heart set on doing that didn't get done? What did we miss? That would be one.
That's a good question. What else we got, Troy?
Angela said, could you each tell us your favorite sequence set to music? Mine is Tom's death.
That's mine too.
Yep.
I like that one. That one makes me cry. But there's a couple. Oh my gosh, I can't think of them. But I know that's not my favorite one because there was a few where I was like, "Damn, that's a great song." There's some really good ones in there. But I couldn't even name it because I have to think about it. You know.
I would have to say the Liz death scene.
Yeah.
The first death scene.
Yeah, not the first death scene because that would have been season 3. The actual death scene at the end of season 8. That one was a good one. There was the song at the end of Ruin too. No Roads. Was that Alice Merton? That one was actually recommended by my wife. And she's like, "Hey, this is a great song. This should be used in the show." And I pinged John and I said, "Hey, here's a great song. Use it in the show." And he ended up using it in the show as Liz is walking from the deep woods back into reality down the road to kind of reclaim her lifestyle and go after Red. But yeah, Disturbed Sound of Silence is.
Yeah, that one really got me because I love that song, The Sounds of Silence. Paul Simon.
Yeah.
But
it just fit that sequence. So
I think the problem is for me is I don't remember it per se. Is like I lived that moment. I thought like, oh, this is a great scene. This is a great thing. But then it didn't register. Like it didn't save in my memory bank. So I can't go. I have to watch the entire show again to find that song that would really like, pow, this is perfect. All
right. This one's fun. Red's illness went into remission at the end of season 8, and then it just mysteriously comes back in season 10. What was the illness?
Okay. I won't lie. I know the answer to that, but I can't say it. So it's a mysterious illness. Anything that was on screen wasn't shown. It wasn't shown, so we don't know.
I'll tell you what it is. It is any illness that would cause you to cough blood.
What?
Well said.
Played.
So all you got to do is break out your, your medical history books and textbooks and do some research and narrow it down and figure out what it was.
Was that on the shelf of his apartment next to his...
Your Grey's Anatomy. If you look at... we go with that bookshelf again. That famous bookshelf. Who knows what was in that bookshelf? I remember
you said what was on that bookshelf during your interview. Everybody ran with it.
I think, one day I was sitting in Herbie's apartment on set, and there's a bookcase there, and he's got toys. The kids' toys are everywhere, and I'm looking. I'm like, I got that toy at home. I got that toy because I have two kids, and I'm looking through the books, and I'm like, wait a minute, what are all these books here? And like, there's an anatomy book and medical history book, and then it dawned on me that no one's actually sitting there thinking about the books that go on the shelf. It's pretty much the stockpile we have in the props room and the set dressing room. And these books are probably the same books that were in Reddington's apartment or in Liz's apartment. And the books are just books. And that's all. They are literally just background, That
reminds me of Eisendrath on that season 3 thing when he's like, I'm pretty sure the shipping container was just a shipping container.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Some people want to read into things that don't exist, but they want to ignore the things that are in their face.
Right. Yeah, Troy.
Exactly. Nate said in season 3, Red and Liz went on the run as fugitives when Red had a memory erased of something Liz saw the night of the fire. What memory do you think it was erased? Not the night of the fire. What memory do you think Red erased?
Him putting the fulcrum in the bunny.
It's a good answer.
That's
what I think. Yeah, why not?
That's really good.
Yeah.
Because how do you not feel this big, heavy metal thing?
What was it? It was like a microchip. It wasn't super heavy, but you would have felt the stitches.
Probably her mother as a whole, I would say. Like the whole memory of her mother. Because she doesn't really remember much of her mother.
Well, that's true, too. I thought the fulcrum wasn't the fulcrum like this thing?
No, he had the fulcrum in the case. The case was actually in the trunk of the Buick that was underneath the commune of the people. And then he had to get the key from
Jill. How do you remember this?
It's John F. Kennedy's car. You're talking about the Kenyon family.
The Kenyon family.
The Kenyon family, the church, the religious cult, and they had the John F. Kennedy's car.
Yeah, and the fulcrum was actually in the trunk of the car.
That's right. See, I'm thinking of the wrong thing. It was
the chip that activated it that he needed.
Right, 80s technology or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the key was with Piper in the glass bottle in the tree.
That was the front. 205. See, I remember season 2 more than anything because it was my first season.
There you go.
Those are the most memorable ones. Like, I remember 201, the 202, 203, 204, I remember all those characters, but
204 would have been where the mother theory really came into light. That was the other doctor. That was the Naomi episode.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, Naomi storyline, man. That was the other thing. That Berlin, Berlin was it kind of built up and then it just dropped off the face of the earth. Like there were so many stories that started and then didn't go. One thing I remember Diego and I talking about is like when all hell was breaking loose. I think it was after season 7 or season 8. No, when it was season 8, where we wanted Dembe in charge of Reddington's operation, Reddington on his own we wanted like we wanted a triangle happening here where it was like the post office versus Dembe versus Reddington, and Liz was still part of the post office. We wanted a 3-way war.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Something really intense where Reddington's on the run. Dembe's running the business now. And Dembe is, feeding into the post office, but the post office doesn't trust Dembe. This is before he's a Fed, which that's a whole nother.
Sounds like it would have been a perfect thing for season 9.
It would have been something like a trifecta, a real war happening between like the family's broken, and nobody trusts anybody. Not Reddington going to the post office every 10 minutes and be like, hey, I got another thing for you. Hey, this and that. We needed something more like actiony. I would have wanted to see a whole season of Reddington on the run, hiding from Wu Jing, as opposed to hanging out in the bathhouse. But again, that comes back to the budgetary thing where you have to scale it down to what we can shoot in 7 days, you know?
True.
And that's just the nature of Hollywood. It doesn't matter. We're delivering a product, and the quality of the product can vary from episode to episode depending on A, the ratings, B, the availability of the actors, and C, the cost and scheduling. If the fans really wanted us to have these grandiose episodes, then where are the other 6 million fans that were watching back in season 2, 3, and 4? And we were left with like 2 million, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So they can't bitch about the show losing its quality if they're not watching it. That's how the network works. You know, you have to watch the show so they can make the money, so they can deliver the product. You know, that's the ugly side of the business of Hollywood, you know?
It's part of the business.
Yeah.
All right. If Megan, speaking of like show changing, if Megan had not left in season 8, how would the show have ended?
Oh, Megan once. I'm sorry, you go ahead first.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. Megan once told me a story because Megan had she'd love to come in. I know something you don't know. And I'm like, okay. Because she knew I was a dyer. She knew I listened to you guys. Yeah. And she's like, I know how the show ends. I'm like, all right. So you're going to tell it? She goes, so Reddington dies. I'm going to be in charge of the business. And 30 years down the line, Agnes Keene is going to be a Fed, and I'm going to get captured, and I'm going to ask for – I will only speak to Agnes Keene, not saying she's Elizabeth Keene, obviously. Now, this was way back, season 4 or 5, who knows, you know. So you take it with a grain of salt. They're like, all right, Megan, it sounds cool. I like it. Sure.
That would be
not knowing that, you know, if she hadn't left the show, I think Bokenkamp would have gotten to tell his story the way he truly wanted to. Mm-hmm. I don't really believe that her dying on the sidewalk at the end was the way he intended it from the pilot. But I'm more than impressed that he was able to, you know, overcome the adversity of the organic nature of shooting a show that long. I'm pretty sure nobody thought we were going to go past 5 seasons. Mm-hmm. You know, when we did season 5 and we got renewed for 6, I was like, you got to be kidding me. Because where else is this show going to go? You know, we had already like maybe 100 blacklisters on the list, and that was it. So I think had Megan not left the show, I'm sorry.
We were like, they're coming back for 6. It's got to be the end.
It's got to be the end.
You revealed the bones. There's not much else you can do. Like the answer has to come next season.
Yeah, so we were thinking that they're going to finish this up. But I think if Megan had not left the show, Bokenkamp would have gotten to tell his true story. And, you know, we probably would have been a different ending, a different show. Well, absolutely 100%. No bullshit, you know?
Yeah. I think that's how it would have ended, too. I personally, just from things I've understood.
Yeah. I always thought it would be Romeo and Juliet kind of thing.
Did you think Reddington would live?
No, I thought they would both die in each other's arms. Like something would have happened that they both got taken out at the same time. Very Shakespearean.
I don't like that one.
I don't like it either.
I don't like it either.
I'm sorry. I just, it's like, I feel like I've seen that.
Yeah.
You know what I didn't see? A bull in a field.
Sure did not.
And that's one thing I have to appreciate about the show is that
was Red Bull a sponsor? Is that what it was? Is Red Bull a sponsor?
That's pretty smart. Red Bull. Like I said, you know, the bull was one of those things where they're going to be talking about this show for years because of that ending. You know, and it's like the same thing with Lost. You know, everybody knows about the smoke monster, and I barely watched Lost, and I know about the smoke monster. You know, so the fact that the Blacklist gave us an ending that nobody saw coming, I respect them for that. Yep. Nobody called it. No one can honestly say, I called it. I knew this is how it was going to end. Nobody. It's going
to drive Troy nuts for the rest of his life that he never called that ending.
Right. You know what? The fact that it'll last forever in your mind is like saying, like, I will never forget the Sopranos ending. I'll never forget the Seinfeld ending. You know, things like that. Those moments of TV which don't really exist anymore. We succeeded in doing that.
Sure.
And just,
fair point.
There's your bull. You know, and
you know what's sad, Pepe, is you've sold me more on that ending than the show did. I'm just letting you know. You
gotta look like that. Yeah.
He was there. I mean, he can do that.
Yeah, but when we were there, I'm sitting myself like, what the fuck are we shooting, man? Are we really? Like, I even told my wife, like, don't get me wrong. We flew all the way across the Atlantic to shoot in a field. Like, we didn't shoot in Madrid. Field. We didn't shoot the city or, like, anything that looked Spain. We shot a mountain. We shot a field. We shot a beautiful house, you know? Did we have to go to Spain? Probably not. But hell, I'm not going to say no to a free ticket. So
once in a lifetime opportunity.
It was an experience. It was a wonderful experience because I got to really end the show on my terms, and I got to, like, I've been a makeup artist now for 28 years. I worked on a number of movies and a number of television shows where you come in, you do your job, you go home. But to be a part of a production from soup to nuts. Now, granted, I wasn't season 1 department head. I did day play on it a few times, but season 2 to season 10, I was full time. I got to be part of a real family in the business, you know, and that's something I'll always cherish. And the fact that I got to end it in Madrid and experiencing things that I never had before was just such a poetic moment for the show for me, you know. So I always look fondly. It's a decade of my life, you know. And awesome. I just have to take that with me that, you know, the ending, regardless of what it was an ending that people will still not stop talking about on the forums. So then we did our job.
There you go. What else we got, Troy? We have any more Patreon questions?
Yeah, last one. And I think that's a good point. You know, we just, because I think you guys welcomed us in too, Aaron and I, as part of the family, right? And I remember meeting like Noah Schechter, like way back in the day. Noah and Taylor Martin from the writers' room. Those guys have been with the show since season 1 when they were assistants to John and John, right? And then now they're writing episodes.
And
eventually, hopefully, TV shows of their own, which is just fantastic that we have to grow up. So, speaking of long term, you both talked about friendship with John Bokenkamp. Now that the show is over, is there anything you can share with us about the show that he told you off the air?
Who's this? Angelo. You, well, I'll take it and then you can take it. Yes, he shared plenty with us. No, can't tell you. Sorry. It's a private conversation. I mean, it's not like, I know this and you don't know. It's not like that. It's just if somebody tells me something in private, it's private. So, that's how I am. Sorry. He'd tell me, here, I'll share one. He loves his wife very much. And he's very proud of his children.
He's from Nebraska.
There you go.
That's what I got.
Yep.
I will tell you that there was a different music cue for the montage sequence before the one that you saw that was shot and aired on TV.
Oh, yeah. We played music. They were playing music on set, and it wasn't what was on the final show.
Yeah.
I do remember that. I don't remember the song, but yeah, you know, that sequence, that montage sequence took forever. Like just shooting clips and then all the ghosts. That was 3 days of shooting the ghosts.
Just think of Z and all the people in post that are editing that together. I mean, the editors just do an amazing job as well. Elise in the editing bay, she did a great job. Chris in the editing bay did a great job. Yeah, lots of people we met over the years.
So what's next for you guys now that the Blacklist is officially over and so is the Blacklist Exposed?
Great segue, Anthony Pepe.
Wow.
See, I didn't major in communications, but you know.
But you did major in common sense.
You gotta
know how to talk to people, man.
Yeah.
You go here, thehollywoodoutsider.com. That's what's been going on for over 11 years, actually.
Yeah.
I only like it when you guys do Marvel movies because that's the only movies I really watch anymore.
Well, we do those. We cover those.
That's the only time I listen to Hollywood Outsider. Did you guys do Violent Night? Because I just discovered that movie the other night.
Sure we did, but that was last Christmas. See, that's
such a great freaking movie.
So what you have to do is you go to this website because we don't do just the Hollywood Outsider. We also did 2 other podcasts, one called Bad Movie Night and one called Remake This Movie Right. And those are actually interesting shows to listen to.
So I have to go to Golden Spiral Media.
Nope. This is just the Hollywood Outsider.
Just the Hollywood Outsider.
Okay, so I go to HollywoodOutsider.com, and now I will discover more podcasts, and I will start bothering you on those.
Please do.
Fanboy.
Please do. Yeah, they're fun. Remake This Movie Right, we stopped doing, but I honestly, we stopped doing it.
It was a lot of work.
It was a lot of work, but that's the one I still get asked about the most. It's wild.
Well, that sounds like a great idea. Like, what are you picking movies that are bad, or
John,
are you picking like movies that are good?
There you go.
No,
there's one for John. We did a episode of Remake This Movie Right for Taking Lives.
No, it wasn't Remake This Movie Right.
Oh, wasn't Remake This Movie Right? We didn't do that one for. I swear we did for Remake This Movie Right.
Maybe we did. Shit, I don't remember.
You got to start calling it RTMR.
Well, it hasn't been done in a long time, so
that's how you rebrand it. RTMR.
On that podcast, Pepe, you'd appreciate this. There was a long-standing fight on the main show, The Hollywood Outsider, that Aaron and the team were doing about whether or not Tremors was a sci-fi show or not. And S.S. Wilson actually sent him a note to basically confirm once and for all the battle. And so with that, they became friends. And so on Remake
He came
This
on
Movie,
the podcast to settle the debate.
Podcast?
Is Tremors science fiction or not?
Yeah.
That's literally
Tremors, the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wrote Tremors and Short
Tremors.
Circuit, and yeah.
It's a horror movie.
Well, but the idea was, is it science fiction or not? And I said it's science fiction, and he's like, the other Justin, who's no longer, he passed away, but he was having the debate with me. And so S.S. Wilson came on, and we had a whole debate about his whole work, and is it science fiction? And then he agreed to come back on Remake This Movie Right to remake his own movie, Short Circuit, which was kind of awesome.
See, that I love that movie. I would love to hear that one.
And then he had so much fun. He actually came back
awesome.
to remake this movie twice, 2 more times after that. He did The Howling, and Magnificent Seven.
Yeah.
I never saw that. Magnificent Seven.
Those are, honestly, that's still the podcast I get questions about them.
You got to reboot that.
I kind of want to reboot it now that we got more time. I always think about doing it.
RTMR, you know? Brand it. RTMR, you know? Because Remake This Movie Right sounds like you guys are having a stuttering issue. Just like, remake this movie right. Make this movie right. Make this movie right.
Maybe we will. Maybe Troy, we should look at that.
We should look at it.
Yeah. It's like,
would you come on do one? Would you come do one with us, Pepe?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But, but the thing is, you're picking movies that are good to begin with.
Not necessarily. There's a lot of bad ones too.
We did a whole episode on The Room, and let me tell you, what we came up with for The Room
that's
is amazing.
Easy pickings, man. That's easy.
No, but we made it a good movie. The idea is to make it a good movie. So
yeah, they're literally every episode is a pitch for Hollywood to come pay us money.
And we do a trailer at the end of every
movie, right?
We do a trailer at the end of every episode. That's took so long.
I got to look through your catalog of movies you've done, because there's probably a couple movies that I would suggest that. Like
Kremlins is amazing.
Yeah,
Gremlins is a perfect movie, so there's no remaking.
No.
Kremlins.
The movie that we remade ended up being called Kremlins.
Kremlins.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of
the Mogwais invade Russia.
And some fans made like a poster of it. It was actually kind of amazing. It was kind of
that's silly. I love that.
Yeah.
I gotta look into this now.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's what's next. We're spend time over there at the Hollywood Outsider, and then we're just standing by, see what comes up.
Sounds exactly what I'm doing right now.
Maybe we'll do The Last Frontier. I hear that's a good show, and
we'll see. I will. I'll let you know if I happen to jump on that one. I'll give you guys a call and be like, "Hey, you guys want to come to Montreal?"
Yeah.
Oh, I would go in a heartbeat. I love that. That's
poutine all the way.
Nice poutine.
No, but it's been fun.
Okay, and in that, Pepe, any closing words from you before Troy and I close out this podcast forever?
I want to say thanks to you guys for making the show much more enjoyable than just a job. I want to thank everybody who watched The Blacklist, whoever loved it or hated it. I thank everybody who was involved with the show, the people who hired me, my wife for putting up with me working 60 plus hours a week. And I'm just glad I got to be a part of something that, grew more than I ever expected it to be. You take on a job and you do the job as best you can. And the next thing you know, you're doing the job for a lot longer than you expected. And with so many fun times and bad times and aggravating things and good things, it was quite the experience, and I'm going to miss it. I'm going to miss Blacklist Exposed. And I already missed going on the show. I haven't been on the show since May now. We shut down in May. So slightly going a little stir crazy at the house, waiting for the next job. And hopefully when the strike ends, we'll move on to the next show. But I have to say thank you guys for everything, and it's been really cool. And I'm looking forward to listening to RTMR. See?
Now I'm gonna go buy the website.
Yeah.
Thanks for those kind words. So this is the last time we do this podcast. I want to, before I forget, Rory and Chuck, thank you so much for filling in for me over the years. Even though, Anthony's right, I was better, but you guys did.
I had no. I mean, they were good guys.
I'm kidding. I kid.
They were just too damn agreeable.
Those were the only 3 podcasts Chuck had ever done.
Yeah, I know. They both great job. Sincerely, I was just being funny. I know my wife will listen. I want to thank her because she's always been so supportive, and she's gone. I mean, when we did C2E2, it always fell around our anniversary every year. And I remember one year I went to the dinner when we had dinner. My wife couldn't go, but that was our anniversary, and I actually went. And then the other year, I actually passed on the dinner because I wasn't going to do that tour twice. And that was actually the dinner where, of course, everybody was freaking there. So, but what are you going to do? But I thank her for always being supportive, because there's a lot of hours that she gave up with me. Or maybe that's the great thing. I don't know that she gave up all those hours, but I've always appreciated her. My kids too for being so supportive. But the listeners, most of them, I love all of you. There's a few of you that are just dicks, frankly. I'm just going to be honest. You just don't like hearing something you don't like to hear. But most of you are pretty wonderful and have had nothing but kind words to say, or fair criticism, and I'm totally okay with fair criticism. But there's also some people out there I'm like, just stop talking on the internet. There's something wrong with you. I don't have time for that. And I'm glad I can finally say that. So, my daughter is LGBTQ, and so every time I see somebody say something shitty in that respect, that it affects me personally. So just try to remember that next time you're on the internet just saying whatever you think. Maybe it's not so cool.
It's like I said, not everybody deserves a voice.
Yeah.
Yep.
I hate to say it. You don't have to like everything. It's not for you. It's not about you. It's not meant for you. But I thought this was a great story till 8/22, and as far as I'm concerned, that's where the story
Season
ends.
9 totally rocks, dude.
Okay.
We had sex robots, for Christ's sakes.
You did.
You can't really,
You did. But I love the ending for 8/22, and I'm just going to stick with that. That's a good ending. But I want to thank all the fans, all the listeners all over the years. We've had a lot of great memories. And yeah, we've talked about some cool opportunities we've had, but none of that would have happened without you listening. And that really, really means the world to me. And especially Troy. I give him a lot of grief, give him a lot of shit, and he deserves most of it. And his ego, I'm not kidding, is massive.
True statement.
Especially as soon as he's proven right about anything, it's just, oh God, it's a nightmare. But, we've become very good friends, and it's not just for podcasts. We go to Packers games. We go to a lot of stuff. We're good friends. And, I know this is really close to his heart. He remembers way more of the details than I ever will, which is obvious if you've ever listened to an episode. And I admire his devotion to it, even if it's a little weird that he won't let me do a solo podcast. And
you can't figure out the StreamYard.
I can't. It's so complicated.
We're recording the Hollywood Outsider in 5 days. I'll be sure to not show up on Tuesday. How's that sound?
Yeah, that's fair. I just want to say thank you for doing all this. And he's edited these. I edit the Hollywood Outsider, but he's edited all of these, and I know there's been a grind, but I wanted to leave a couple of years ago just because there was so much going on in my own life, but I stuck around just for Troy, and so thanks, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And you get the final word, as I'm sure you are so happy about.
I got nothing left to say. Brett is Katarina. Was Katarina. That's all I have, to be honest. Like that. That's what started the thing. That's what momented the thing. That's what got Daniel involved. That's what got John involved. That's what got the fans involved in talking about the show. And, the theory was a theory until it wasn't. And now we're here at the end. And it's been an amazing ride. Everything that I've ever wanted to accomplish in podcasting has happened because of this show. And it's been crazy that I never would have thought in this day and age, people jump job to job to job, right? Every year, every 3 years. The fact that the crew, the cast, the majority of us have been with this thing for a decade. Like that's a testament, one, to television and how great television is, that we can do 22 episodes still, as Anthony was mentioning. The fact that people are going to talk about the Blacklist 10 years from now. I'm really looking forward to when we all get together in Austin at the 22nd camp at ATX in Austin for the reunion panel. I think that's going to be an amazing, when someone will finally actually say on the record that Red was Katarina, probably. But yeah, it's just that we don't do this because like we're fans of TV, right? We're fans of TV. We love watching TV. We love dissecting TV. It's what we get, paid by you guys to do. And we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys contributing via Patreon, which was always appreciated. But we do this it's a fan podcast. It's their TV fan podcast for a reason. And if it's not for the fans, then we wouldn't be here. So the fact that you guys keep listening, keep coming back listening, like that is an amazing fedora right there from Pepe.
Sinatras.
Yeah.
Nice.
Be sure to get on YouTube. You can see these fedoras we're wearing.
I'm just eternally grateful to everybody. It's been great. Aaron especially. Yeah, we've been camping, canoeing. Hell, I think we even slept in a bed together once because there was only a queen bed in the hotel when we went to LA that one time.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I remember that.
So
I remember driving to the awards ceremony, and
I got those.
He's got pops.
I got those.
You got these? Keep them in the box. They might be worth something.
Never opened. Still
never opened. I got both.
Yeah. Got both.
Do you remember that, Trey, going to the awards ceremony? We're listening to all the other nominees, and we're like, well, they're all going to win.
They're all going to win.
They're all going to win.
They pick the top 5 best shows in Apple Podcasts. We're talking, how did this get made? You Must Remember This. Game of Thrones, a podcast. The West Wing Weekly, which is done by the people of the West Wing. Like, these are big shows. And then we're sitting there, and one of the fan shows, we were one of the fan shows. The other fan show was called These Are Their Stories, the Law and Order podcast. And all I'm doing the entire time on the way to the show was literally going, these are their stories, because it's such a catchy theme song.
Yeah,
and Aaron's like,
good.
if you keep singing it, they're going to freaking win. Shut the hell up. And then we actually became really good friends with that show, with the guys.
Yeah, we
from
actually
that show.
dropped on their show. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. So,
and Trey wanted to remind me, and he's absolutely right. I need to thank my mother for everything she ever did for me. I'm finally making sure that you get your due. You're the whole reason I'm in podcasting, and I like movies and TV. And also thanks to Liz's mom, because you made the show possible.
Amen. Thanks, Mom. Really appreciate it. And thanks to Anthony Pepe's mom for making Anthony too, so that way we could talk to him and see all of his great work over the 10 years.
I'm sure your dad had something to do with it too. We got to go. This is getting weird. All right. Have a wonderful time, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the Blacklist Exposed. Maybe we'll come back for a reunion episode someday. So stay subscribed. You just never know.
Until next time, I'm Agent Troy Heinritz. That's at Troy Heinritz on Twitter. And if you want to learn more about me, just visit, about.me/Troy Heinritz.
And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson. You can hear me talking about movies and TV on the Hollywood Outsider podcast, as well as Remake This Movie Right. We are available at thehollywoodoutsiders.com or on Twitter at 5popcorn. Be sure to subscribe, download the app, submit your feedback, but most importantly, keep yourself off of the Blacklist.
The Blacklist Exposed is a Golden Spiral Media production. Find more of our great podcasts at goldenspiralmedia.com/podcasts.